Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto copies the Forbidden Scroll Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Yawning loudly as he stretched on his small bed, Uzumaki Naruto slowly started his morning routine. Yawn, stretch, scratch, head to small shabby kitchen to start water to boil. Then move to the bathroom, turn on his ice-cold shower, and get clean while freezing. Curse the landlord for never fixing the water heater for his apartment. Stupid landlord. When I become Hokage, he'll be sorry he did this to me. The young blonde slowly stepped out of his shower, shivering, and trying to dry off with one of his few towels. As he was drying, he couldn't help but remember he needed to try to do his laundry tonight. If only it was that easy. Stupid people never let me use the machines, even when I have enough money. I might have to go down to the river again. Changing into a pair of ramen boxers, and hanging the towel around his neck, he walked to the kitchen, careful to avoid the holes in his floorboards of the house. With never having enough money to repair them, and when he did he would be charged too much, he finally decided to just forget about it, and let them stay that way. As he reached the kitchen, he noticed his water had finally started to boil, and quickly poured it into a container of instant ramen, and sat there waiting those 3 agonizing minutes for it to cook. While sitting there, he couldn't help but think of last night. Even now he could still feel a small pain in his right arm. Thinking of the phantom pain, he reached up with his other arm and gently grabbed it. Flashback. Naruto had finally finished cleaning up the Hokage faces, and spent the rest of the night with his sensei, Umino Iruka. Iruka had decided to treat Naruto out to ramen as a motivator to clean up the faces quicker. It turned out to be a small mistake, as Naruto managed to eat nearly 10 times as many as Iruka. As he walked into his small apartment, he couldn't help but notice another rock laying in what would be his living room, with another part of the window shattered. Sighing, the young blonde walked over and picked the rock up to place it in a drawer of his dresser with the many others like it, not even bothering to read the note attached to it. He never knew why the villagers acted like that, but he finally got to a point where he just stopped caring, and ignored it, putting on a smile so that they never see him cry or sad. Even around Iruka and Old Man Hokage. As he was walking towards his bedroom, a sudden jolt of pain raced up his right arm, sending him crashing down to the floor. He tried to bring his other arm to cradle the right, but the pain stopped him, causing him to fall back to the floor, bringing out fresh tears of pain. Kuso! What is this? It hurts so much. What is going on? Despite the pain, he managed to crawl his way onto his bed, and lay there, wincing in pain every so often, never knowing what was causing it. All he knew was that he had never felt anything like it before. Try as he might, he could not hold back the tears that it brought to him. The pain was unbearable. He felt as if the pain was enough to kill him. Slowly the pain started to spread throughout the arm, starting at the right shoulder blade, and traveling down the length of the entire appendage. Each minute that passed, a new wave hit him. Finally, after who knows how long, Naruto passed out from the pain on his bed, the entire time crying into his mattress. Present. Naruto shook himself out of his thoughts, and turned his attention back to his noodles, which were now ready. Grabbing his favorite chopsticks, he wasted little time in finishing them off, and tossing the carton into a pile with the rest. After making a mental note to take the garbage out, he went to his room to change into whatever he could find to wear. Arg. Just my luck, my last jumpsuit is dirty. I don't know if I have anything else to wear. Just great. After yelling this, he quickly looked through his drawers and closet to try to find something clean to wear, and finally managed to find a few clean clothes. Sighing, Naruto dressed in a white t-shirt with small flames-like designs that curled around each other on his shoulders, chest and back. He sat down on his bed as he pulled on a pair of orange shorts that used to be one of his jumpsuits, but had some of the legs torn off. Finally, he finished it all off with putting on an orange vest jacket that had the sleeves torn off of it, and left the thing halfway zipped as he walked over to his dresser and put on one of his only true possessions. He never knew where they came from, but he still liked them. It was one of the only things he was ever given on his birthday. A pair of green goggles that would shield his eyes, as well as the bridge of his nose. As he walked out of the room, he caught a glimpse of his calendar and noticed the date. Oh man! Today is the day of the test. He quickly looked towards his alarm clock and noticed the numbers flashing, 12 o'clock. Not wasting time, he quickly ran out the door and noticed the sun about halfway across the sky, and only one thing came to his mind. Arg! I'm late. After that, he quickly took off across the rooftops, heading towards the Shinobi Academy. Konoha Shinobi Academy, Room 201. Umino Iruka was enjoying his days so far. Last night he had ramen with one of his favorite students, though he regretted the choice of ramen for dinner. He always enjoyed spending time with Naruto, even though the boy could be a troublemaker. Iruka knew he was only doing it to try to get attention. After all, He had done the very same thing when he was Naruto's age. Now today was the day that many of his students would advance to become a genin of Konohagakure, the Hidden Leaf Village. Some would continue on through the ranks and become Chunin, Jonin, and maybe even Anbu. Perhaps one day one would even reach the title of Hokage. But first they had to pass the test today, and then the test that their Jonin sensei may give them. Out of everyone present today in his class, there was one missing that he knew would never miss this day. Uzumaki Naruto. He had tried the previous 2 years to pass, and yet always failed. The last 2 tests were always the one skill that Naruto had the hardest time with, the Bunshin no Jutsu. This year though might be different. He had seen Naruto practicing the technique, and from what he could tell, it looked like he would be able to pass if the exam was the same as previous years. No one ever knew what the exams would be until the day of the exam. Each year when it came to exam time, the council and Hokage would gather to discuss what they felt should be performed, then it would be sealed and locked away so that no one would know until the instructor opened the sealed scroll in front of the class. This way things would be fair for all students involved, or so it should be. Iruka had a feeling that things were not always fair after hearing some stories. Now the class was halfway through with the exam, with only a few students left to take it. Thankfully he had yet to call Naruto's name, since they went in alphabetical order. Naruto was the second to last person to take it. Still though, there were only 2 others before Naruto was supposed to perform. Sighing, he continued with calling out the next person, Naro Shikamaru, please come down and follow me to the exam room. Groaning, Shikamaru slowly woke up from his nap and walked down to follow his sensei to the room, the whole time mumbling something no one was able to make out. It didn't take long for Iruka to come back into the room, and call for the next student, Uchiha Sasuke, please follow me. After calling the name, Iruka took another look around, hoping to see an orange-clad boy with messy blonde hair sitting there waiting for his turn. Seeing nothing of the sort, he sighed once again and left the room with the lone Uchiha of Konoha following him. This left only one other person in the room, Yamanaka Ino, who decided to busy herself by day dreaming of her dream boat, Sasuke. Once again it felt like things were moving all too fast for Iruka as he started to make his way back towards the classroom. He tried to pace himself slowly, as to leave as much time as possible for Naruto to make it, yet he still found himself in front of room 201 for his liking. Sighing, he slid the door open, and walked in, looking towards the back in hopes of seeing a splash of orange. Not seeing anything, he started doing what he feared. Uzumaki Naruto, he called out, and waited several seconds before doing so again. Uzumaki Naruto, second call. Still nothing. Finally he called one last time, Uzumaki Naruto, this is your final call. Come forward now, or you will fail this year's exam. Hearing nothing, he started to slowly cross the name off of his list. Right when the pen was about to run through the U, the door flew open and in came running the blue-eyed, blonde-haired boy known by many as Uzumaki Naruto. I'm here. Sorry I'm late, sensei. Naruto. You barely made it in time, follow me to the exam room. As he started on the way out, he could hear the sound of Ino laughing at Naruto as he slowly made his way out of the room. So tell me, Naruto, why were you late this time? Asked Iruka as he walked down the hall towards the room, and glared at his pupil. I think my apartment lost power last night, or something. I mean, even my heater wasn't working. Not that much has ever worked in that stupid place to begin with. Iruka heard the first part, but the last parts came out as nothing more than a whisper that he couldn't pick up. Naruto, how many times have I told you to quit depending on that old thing? Get a real clock, that way you don't need power to tell time or anything. I almost failed you because you were not here on time. Hi, I will when I can, Iruka-sensei. It's just that I've had other things to take care of first, trailed off Naruto. Still though, as important as becoming a shinobi is to you, I would think you would put a little more effort into being on time. Well, here we are, Naruto, good luck. Spoke Iruka as he opened the door for Naruto, and followed him in. After closing the door to the room, Iruka took a seat at the front of the room beside another teacher at the academy, Mizuki. After Iruka took his seat, Mizuki spoke up finally. Alright Naruto, this year's exam requires you to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, and create 3 different Bunshins that could be used in a fight. Arg. I hate this one. It's a good thing I've been practicing it since last year. This time I will become a shinobi. Nodding to indicate he understood, Naruto took his place in front of the teachers, and got ready to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. Taking a deep breath, he spread out his legs, and started to concentrate so that he could generate the needed chakra. Slowly blue light started to circle around Naruto as he focused. All was going well until something started to cause the chakra to flicker. No, not now, stupid arm, quit hurting, yelled Naruto in his mind. The pain in his right arm had come back, this time it was more painful than it was the previous night. Grinding his teeth, he tried to fight the pain and performed the jutsu. Iruka noticed that Naruto seemed to be in some kind of pain, yet could see nothing to cause it. He sat there holding his breath, hoping Naruto would finally pass this time. With more than a little force, Naruto yelled out, Bunshin no Jutsu, generating a large cloud of smoke around him, concealing him from the eyes of Irika and Mizuki. Irika could hear coughing coming from inside of the smoke cloud, as well as a few cries of pain. He gripped the desk, fighting the urge to run in and check on Naruto. After several seconds, the smoke finally started to clear, and revealed Naruto, and a single clone. Said clone was bellowed down on the floor, with all of his colors several shades lighter than the originals. It looked pale and sickly, almost as if it was about to die itself. Naruto, upon seeing the clone, yelled out in dismay. No! I can't believe it! Dropping his head, Irika stood up to speak. I'm sorry, Naruto, but you fail. You will have to try again next year. This caused more than a little fear and anger in Naruto, who was still trying to fight back the pain in his arm. No! Irika-sensei, please let me try again. I promise I can perform the technique. It's just that something happened that distracted me. Please, give me one more chance. You know, Irika, he did perform the technique, and it could be usable in a fight if the enemy wasn't paying attention. We should give him another try. After all, it is obvious something is bothering him. Spoke up Mizuki as he looked on Naruto with pity in his eyes. I'm sorry, Mizuki-sensei, Naruto. Each student is only allowed once chance, unless given an excuse from parents, the council, or the Hokage. While he did perform the jutsu, it would never be usable in a battle. You can never depend upon the enemy not paying attention to something like this, stated Irika with a hint of remorse in his voice. When a final look at both of his senseis, Naruto hung his head down and ran from the room, the whole time gripping his right shoulder as he ran outside of the academy to his favorite spot in the yards. Once outside, he sat against his favorite tree as he held his shoulder and tried to fight back the tears of pain and sadness. Kyuso. Why can't they give me another chance? It's not like it is my fault that my arm started hurting for no reason, again. It's just not fair. I tried so hard this time, and it was all for nothing. Maybe I should give up on being a shinobi and find something else to do. Naruto continued his inner debate as he watched students get picked up and congratulated by their parents. Every so often, snippets of conversation would drift over to him. Look, Dad, I graduated. Now I'll be a ninja just like you. That's great, son. Wait till your mom hears this, she will be so happy. Look, Mom, they called me first and I passed easily. That's my boy. Tonight we will have a special dinner and party for your graduation. Look, it's that boy. I heard he was the only one who didn't pass. Yeah. Good though, could you imagine what would happen if he passed? He could destroy the entire village. I know. I don't know why they let that do. Hush, you know we are not supposed to say that in public. Let's just be glad he didn't pass. Maybe now he will leave or something. Naruto was too caught up in his own pain, as well as hearing the comments from the families, that he never noticed Mizuki walk up beside him. Hey Naruto, tough break, huh? But you know, if you want a second chance, all you have to do is come with me, whispered Mizuki to Naruto. Surprised, Naruto looked up at him, and noticed he had already started to walk away. Slowly he dragged himself up from the tree and started to follow his sensei. The entire time he never noticed an indigo-haired, pale-eyed girl watching him from the crowd, and moved to follow in Mizuki. As she followed, she couldn't help but think about her crush. Naruto-kun, I feel bad you didn't pass. You work so hard, and yet you still fail. But you never give up. You deserve this more than I do. Several hours later, Naruto had finally gotten into the tower, and followed the instructions given to him by Mizuki. He slowly made his way down the hall, and towards the office of the Hokage. Finally making it to the Hokage's doors, he eased one open, and slipped inside. Once in, he made his way to the near corner, and thought everything would go off without a hitch when the lights in the room suddenly turned on. Naruto, what are you doing in here this late? Came the voice of the old Hokage, Sarutobi. Sarutobi, or the Sandaime Hokage, as he was also known, was like a grandfather to Naruto. He was always willing to listen to Naruto, and checking in on him to make sure things were okay. Sure, Naruto never let him in his apartment, because if he did then he would see how bad it was. One thing Naruto would never take from anyone was pity. He hated being pitied by people. He never asked for it, and he would never take it. The Hokage knew this, and would always try little things to make him happy. Taking him out to eat ramen, a birthday gift every year, and someone to talk to helped. They were never done out of pity as far as Naruto was concerned. Aji-san, fancy meeting you here. I was just looking for something. Well, it's late, Naruto, shouldn't you be at home in bed? Nothing could be that important, at least not important enough to break into my office this late. Grumbling to himself, Naruto got ready to perform one of his newest techniques. One that would guarantee to knock out the old Hokage, by working on his only weakness. Sexy young ladies with very little clothing in other words, his perversion. With a grin that unnerved the Hokage, and a flash of chakra, Naruto called out his jutsu. Oiroku no Jutsu. In a brief flash of light, and cloud of smoke later, a young blonde woman, with whisker marks on her cheeks could be seen posing. She only had trails of smoke covering up her assets, and was bent forward, with a hand raised to her lips as she blew a kiss to the Hokage. Aji-sama, won't you please let me go? As she said this, the Hokage was thrown backwards by a shower of blood flying from his nose, sending him crashing into the opposite wall, and knocking him briefly unconscious. With a brief thought, another cloud of smoke appeared, revealing a grinning Naruto. Oiroku no Jutsu is a success. With that, he quickly moved to the vault room in the Hokage's office, and grabbed a scroll that was as long as he is tall. Checking it to see if it was the correct one, he quickly hung it on his shoulders, and left the tower the same way he snuck in. Yumino Irika's home. Irika was laying down on his bed thinking of the talk he had with the Hokage earlier that day. Not much of it was new information, but parts of it still stuck in his mind. Flashback. The Hokage and Irika were standing outside the doors to the academy, each watching and smiling at the faces shown by parents and children alike. Each smiling and cheering that they had passed. Sadly, the topic of their current line of conversation was anything but one to bring a smile to their face. Irika, I heard Naruto failed again. Hi. I don't know what happened this time either. I know he could do it, and there is no way he would play around for something like this. But for some reason halfway through the jutsu something happened. Whatever it was causing Naruto a great deal of pain, and caused him to perform the jutsu poorly. Pain? Did he say what kind or anything? No, but it looked like it was his right shoulder and arm. As he was leaving I saw him holding onto it, and fighting bad tears. If you want to see, he is probably over by his tree. That is strange. I'll have to try to check in on him and make sure everything is okay. It seems though he decided to head home early, stated the Hokage as he looked over towards the tree and saw no trace of Naruto. I feel bad though, he worked so hard for this. I wish I could have given him another chance. But if I did... I know, Irika. But don't worry, Naruto is strong, he will not let this change his mind on anything. After all, we both know how stubborn that boy could be. Present. Naruto, I'm sorry. I know how you must feel. We both have so much in common that it hurts to see you like this. If only I could tell you why you are treated the way you are. Maybe then things would be easier on you. Irika was shaken out of his thoughts by a pounding on his door. Quickly rolling out of bed, dressed only in black pants and shirt, he ran to the door to answer it. He quickly swung the door open to reveal a distressed Mizuki. Yes? Irika-sensei. Get up, and come to the Hokage's. It's an emergency. They are calling on all Jonin and Chunin. What? What's wrong? It's Naruto. He's stolen the Forbidden Scroll. No, Naruto, why would you steal the Forbidden Scroll? Alright, I'll be there quickly, let me get dressed. After quickly getting dressed, Irika wasted no time in getting to the meeting. As he got there, he saw many shinobi gather outside in front of the Hokage. He stayed to the back, in hopes of being able to leave quickly and search for Naruto. While standing there, he heard many shouts of things that made him worry for his student. We should have killed him when we had the chance. If he has the Forbidden Scroll, he could destroy us all. How did he get the scroll made by the Shodai Hokage? Silence! Came the shout from the Hokage as he stood in front of the gathered shinobi. Once everyone had quieted down, he continued. I gathered you all here because the Forbidden Scroll of Seals has been stolen. I do not know for what reason, but Uzumaki Naruto has taken it and run. I want all of you to find him and bring him back with the scroll. He is to be brought back alive, and in one piece. He is not to be harmed. Now go! With that final shout, all the gathered shinobi vanished in a gust of wind and went in search of the young boy. Irika quickly started to jump from building to building, all in search of Naruto. He checked his apartment in hopes of finding him napping. He checked every place he has ever found Naruto inside of the village, only to come up with nothing. Sighing in defeat, he stopped on a small chimney and looked out upon the city. Naruto, where could you be? Standing there, he ran through a list of places in his mind. He had checked every one of them and found nothing. If he couldn't find him, then the odds of someone else doing so were slim to none. It was when he looked out of Konoha and towards the forest that surrounded that something came back to him. That shack, I found him there once after he rigged the entire school with traps. If he isn't in the village, then he has to be there. He quickly left his perch and took off towards the forest. The entire time he never noticed another figure following right behind him. Somewhere in the forest of Konoha. To say Naruto was happy would be an understatement. Everything had gone as planned. The only problem he had run into was the Hokage being in the office, but that was dealt with easily enough. Now he was in the woods at one of his best hiding places, and was about to start reading the scroll to learn the one jutsu needed to pass, as Mizuki-sensei had told him. Sitting down with a loud thump, and removing the scroll from his back, he quickly pulled it open and started to read. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, that should be easy enough, I can do the regular Bunshin after all. With that he went through the steps to learning the jutsu. Oddly enough, it felt easier for him to perform than the regular Bunshin, and so he was able to perform it within the first 30 minutes of trying. With that he moved on to the next one listed. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, ARGH. This one is just as easy, just needs more chakra added to it, so let's go to the next one. Bunshin Daibakuha HM, what else does it say? This jutsu is best used in conjunction with the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. When performed correctly, it allows the user to cause the Bunshin to explode upon command, possibly injuring or killing those that are caught in the blast. Nodding his head at the sound of that, he started to work on the newest jutsu. As he was working on it, he noticed that the more chakra put into it, the larger the explosion. If he wanted a smaller one, he only had to hold back on the chakra put into the jutsu. After an hour, and several mishaps, burns, cuts, and nearly impaling himself on a tree branch, he finally got the jutsu down. Sighing as he finished, he flopped down on the ground, and leaned against the tree he was near. He reached over towards the scroll that was laying next to him, and looked at what the next technique was. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, similar to the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, but performed with shuriken instead of an actual body. The user normally throws one shuriken, and performs the jutsu to create multiple copies, thus making the attack more deadly. It can however be formed with more than one shuriken being thrown. Also, in place of a shuriken, one could use kunai, or other forms of throwing weapons. If done like so, the jutsu would still be the same. The concept of the Kage Bunshin jutsus are all very similar. The reason many of them are listed inside of this scroll is because of the chances of causing chakra depletion of the user, and thus killing them. This is because the jutsus are more powerful with larger amounts of chakra put into them. The chakra put into each Kage jutsu is used to create an actual body, which enables them to do much more than regular bunshins. When performing these, be sure you are not low on chakra. As such, it should be noted that users of these jutsus normally have an excess amount of chakra and stamina, which allows them to perform these in succession, or call upon large and greater results. Great, another one, but it should be worth it, I guess. With that thought, he went into using this one as well. It took little time for him to get the hang of it due to it being extremely similar to the previous jutsus. The entire time he was practicing, he never noticed the form of Hyuga Hinata watching from the safety of the tree line, with new looks of admiration coming to her face with each jutsu he performed in front of her. Both youths were so caught up in what they were doing that neither noticed the form of Iruka settle down in the clearing in front of Naruto. Naruto! What do you think you are doing, stealing the forbidden scroll? Do you have any idea of the trouble you are in? Yelled Iruka once in front of Naruto. Hey Iruka-sensei! I did it! I did it! I learned 4 new jutsus from the scroll. That means I pass, right? He was out here practicing jutsus from the scroll. He really has been practicing though, I can tell by the looks of him and the clearing. But where did he hear such a thing? Naruto, who told you that? Mizuki-sensei told me earlier. He said if I learned a jutsu from this scroll, I could pass and become a genin. What? As Iruka started to say this, he heard the sounds of multiple objects being thrown from behind him. He quickly pushed Naruto out of the way, and off to the side of the shack they were in front of. As he did, he turned and crossed his arms in front of his face and chest, in hopes of blocking any major damage to those areas. Naruto looked on as kunai and shuriken flew into Iruka, pinning him to the wall, and pulling out a shout of pain from his teacher. Turning to where the objects came from, Naruto noticed Mizuki standing in a tree at the edge of the clearing, with 2 giant shurikens strapped to his back. I suppose I should thank you, Iruka. If it wasn't for you, I would have never found Naruto. Mizuki! What's the meaning of this? Yelled out Iruka, biting back a cry of pain. He slowly started to pull the steel objects from his body, while keeping an eye on Mizuki. Isn't it obvious, Iruka? Now Naruto, give me the scroll, and maybe. No! Naruto, whatever you do, do not give him that scroll. Naruto, don't listen to Iruka, all he has ever done is lie to you. Tell me, Naruto, have you ever felt like you were never told something that you should know? Iruka was stunned. He knew what Mizuki was speaking of, and could only imagine what it would do to Naruto if he heard it. Naruto only looked back and forth between his 2 sensei, wondering what was going on. On one hand was Iruka-sensei, who he knew somewhat. He looked up to him as a father, or maybe even a big brother. Sure, he was tough, but he tried to make sure Naruto was okay. On the other side was Mizuki-sensei. He didn't know much about him, but he couldn't help but feel like whatever he was saying right now held some great importance to him. It was something he just had to know. Naruto was quickly brought out of his contemplation by the voice of Iruka. No, Mizuki. You know the law. We can't speak of that. Unsure of what else to say, he voiced the only thing he could. What? What is it? Grinning at Naruto taking the bait, he slowly started to explain. You see, Naruto, everyone in the village hates you, even Irika. You see, 12 years ago the demon fox Kyuubi attacked. When it did, it killed many shinobi of the leaf, including the parents of Irika. Because of that he, as well as many of the other villagers, hate Kyuubi. Mizuki don't. See, even now he tries to hide this from you, Naruto. He and the rest of the villager don't want you to know this. Kano what? Asked the dumbfounded Naruto, as he wondered where this was going. Behind him in the bushes, Hinata was wondering the same thing while trying to stay hidden. But she too wanted to know why they hated Naruto. Why did many of the adults glare at him for no reason? They don't want you to know that you are the demon fox, Kyuubi, yelled Mizuki, causing Naruto to stare, and Irika to hang his head. Hinata was as shocked as Naruto, unsure of what to think at this revelation. No! The Yondaime killed the Kyuubi! Shouted Naruto in disbelief. Yet somehow, it all seemed to be true. The looks, the words, the threats. It all started to make sense with this news. If only he could, then I would not have to kill you now. Think about it, Naruto. Haven't you wondered why you were never accepted here? Why you are hated? It's because you are the nine-tailed fox. So when I kill you and take the scroll, no one will blame me. Now, prepare to die, Naruto. Yelled Mizuki as he removed a shuriken from his back and threw it towards Naruto. Naruto couldn't help but stand there, still too shocked from the news he was just given. Naruto, no! Yelled out Irika as he jumped in front of Naruto and leaned over him to take the shuriken in the back. Naruto, who had closed his eyes in hopes of not seeing the blade bite into him, slowly opened them as he felt some wet fall upon his cheeks. Opening his eyes and reaching a hand to his cheek, he found blood dripping down upon him from above. Seeing this, his eyes widened and he looked up to see Irika with the shuriken stuck inches into the back of his sensei. Irika-sensei. Naruto, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I wanted to, but I was never sure how you would react. Not only that, but we were all forbidden to tell you this. Trailing off, Irika coughed up more blood that splashed onto Naruto. Quit lying, Irika. You know you hate him. Naruto, you know Irika is an orphan, just like you. It's because you killed them when you attacked 12 years again. He hates you just like the rest of the village. You are the beast that destroyed his family, and the family of others. Hearing this, Naruto slowly raised his head to look into the face of Irika. When he did, he could see the pained expression on it. It wasn't one of physical pain, it was one of emotional and mental. Looking into Irika's eyes, he could see how much it hurt him to hear this. And Naruto, I've never hated you. Yes, I was mad, but not at you, at the Kyuubi. You see, I don't see you like the others. Cough, you are just a young man, who had a great burden placed on you. Cough, cough, please Naruto, you have to believe me. The only reason you were never told, and the others your age were never told, was because Sandaime wanted to give you a chance to have a normal life. To make friends, and enough yourself. Naruto could only look on as his sensei pleaded with him. He watched as the emotions played across Irika's face. Irika-sensei, Enough. Time for both of you to die. Interrupted Mizuki as he removed his second shuriken, unleashed it in the direction of Naruto and Irika. Naruto, unable to see it, and Irika unable to move much without spasms of pain hitting him, just stood there. Both were shocked when they heard a shout of Naruto Keien come from behind them. This caused Irika to look up and see the form of Hinata come running towards them in hopes of stopping the object from slicing both in two. That was all it took to shake Naruto from his stupor. He quickly threw Irika off of him and braced himself for the giant shuriken with his arms blocking his face. Irika looked on in horror as the shuriken slammed into Naruto's right arm, piercing through it and throwing Naruto down to the ground. Hinata stopped in shock and looked at the bleeding form of Naruto on the ground. Mizuki looked up from where he was and noticed the Hyuga heiress standing in the clearing and started to smile evilly. So, the Hyuga heiress is here as well. I'm sure I could get a nice price for you from the rakeage. It looks like I get to destroy the Kyuubi, the scroll of sealing, and the Byakugan all in the same night. Sorry, Irika, but I'm going to have to kill you. No! Stay away from them! Shouted Naruto as he struggled to stand and pull the shuriken from his arm. Oh? And what will you do if I don't? I could kill you in a single move, replied Mizuki to the threat. I'll defend them with my own two hands. You will never lay a hand on them. As he shouted this out, the pain from the previous night came back tenfold. Arg! Yelled Naruto as it hit him, causing Irika and Hinata to both turn towards him worried. Naruto! Naruto-kun! They both shouted at the same time. As they watched Naruto, he grabbed his right arm once again. They watched in fascination as a strange light started to glow around the area. A strange blue, green, and white danced around the clearing. As sudden as it started, chunks of earth and parts of the shack started to vanish. Slowly the light started to concentrate on Naruto's right arm. Yelling in pain, Naruto's arm started to split into 3 pieces while still attached to him. The first contained his thumb and pointer finger, the second his middle finger, and the last his ring and pinky. The pieces ran from his knuckles up to his shoulder. In flashes of light his arms started to separate, leaving more of the glowing light in between the parts. Then they started to come back together, each part as red as the muscle inside of the arm. After they reformed, bands of gold came around the arm, as if holding them together. By now his hand had changed, the fingers were red, with bands of gold and silver running across the top of his hand, and wrapping around it. His fingers looked more mechanical than biological, and flexed as if testing themselves. Slowly more gold material started to appear on his forearm, with 2 parts forming, then closing in on it, and concealing what looking like spikes inside. Slowly more of the strange armor appeared and started to enclose more of his right arm, all the way up to his shoulder. Once his arm was fully encased in the new metal armor, 3 strange fins started to form on his shoulder blade, each one larger than the one before the previous. It was once these fins appeared and formed that the light stopped, and showed Naruto with an armored right arm, looking as stunned as the others inside the small clearing. "What is that? I don't know what kind of jutsu you used, it won't be enough to save you from me," shouted Mizuki as he started to run towards Naruto while drawing a kunai from his pouch. Naruto stood there, clenching and unclenching his hand, testing it. He felt stronger, almost as if a newfound power had found its way to him. He watched his hand as he worked it, and slowly turned his gaze towards the charging Mizuki. "I'll never let you hurt Hinata or Irika-sensei," challenged Naruto as he ran towards his former sensei with his new arms cocked back. As the 2 grew closer, Naruto swung his fist forward at the same time Mizuki swung his kunai down. The 2 struck, sending sparks flying into the night sky. As the kunai struck the armor of Naruto's arm, it sparked on contact, then snapped from lack of a place to go. Mizuki jumped back as he looked down at his broken kunai, then at Naruto. With an evil glint in his eye, he started to perform a set of seals. Naruto didn't wait for the seals to finish as he charged forwards, with only the thought of protecting Irika and Hinata in his mind. As he charged forwards, something strange started to happen to the first and smallest fin on his back. It started to slowly deteriorate. In a flash of the same light as before, Naruto was propelled forward at an incredible speed. The armor at his forearm opened, and small spikes came out. Mizuki was taken by surprise as Naruto flew at him. He never had a chance to move or finish his jutsu as Naruto's armor-encased fist came crashing into his chest, sending him flying back in an explosion of energy. As Naruto hit Mizuki, an explosion occurred, sending debris flying around the clearing, and knocking Hinata down upon Irika, who turned to protect her from the debris. Coughing, Mizuki slowly started to stand once again, but this time on unsteady legs. "Nice jutsu you have there, Kyubi, but it is going to take more than that to beat me. Anything you send at me, Hinata, or Irika-sensei, I'll pay back tenfold." After that declaration, Naruto quickly started to do something that shocked everyone present. With his left hand, he started to form one-handed seals, ending upon one slightly cross-shaped one while calling out, "Tajikage Bunshin no Jutsu." The clearing started to suddenly fill up with Naruto clones, each with an armored encased arm, and each glaring dagger at Mizuki, who started to laugh nervously. Irika watched on in wonder. "Those aren't just any Bunshins, they are actual bodies." Hinata almost felt like she was dreaming, seeing so many Narutos in the clearing surrounding them. She was quickly snapped out of her daydream when she heard Naruto's voice calling towards her. "Hinata! Take Irika-sensei and run! Things are about to get crazy. Hurry!" That was all it took to get Hinata to pull Irika up and start to carry him away. As she went, she silently activated her Byakugan so that she could watch the battle about to start. She was stunned when she saw more and more chakra being pumped into the different Narutos in the clearing. That was when she realized what he was about to do. Once she realized this, she quickly found a place to sit and hide from the soon-to-come explosion. She decided upon a large old pine that looked to have recently fallen. Once behind it, she waited. "Hinata, what are you doing? We can't leave Naruto there," came from Irika as they settled in. "Irika-sensei, I think it is best we do what he says." Irika looked on at her confused at first. That was when he heard the first of many large explosions. In the clearing, Mizuki was still looking around at the group of shadow clones, and was trying to figure out how to get out alive when he suddenly felt a massive amount of chakra start to gather. He looked at each clone and then it suddenly hit it. He knows Bunshin Daibakuha. That was his last thought as the clones all charged towards him, and one by one started to explode. With each explosion, other clones would explode until the entire clearing was nothing but one large crater with the body of Mizuki laying in the middle, with barely any life left in him. Hokage Tower. Sarutobi was no fool. After sending the shinobi out to search for Naruto, he went to his office, and into a side room where he could perform the Tongen no Jutsu. Once done, he saw Naruto in the forest, and reading the scroll. He watched on as Naruto started to perform the different Kage Bunshin-based jutsus. He couldn't help but smile at Naruto's work. Very few would be able to do what Naruto is doing after all. He also watched on as Iruka, and then Mizuki confronted Naruto. He began to worry as Mizuki spilled the beans about Naruto's past. "That Mizuki sure has a big mouth," was one of the few comments he made during this time. He watched again as Mizuki threw his second shuriken. Sarutobi started to sweat at this. Naruto wasn't moving, and Iruka was in no shape to do anything. He was shocked when Hyuga Hinata came into the picture, and he saw the look in Mizuki's eyes. This does not look good for those three. What surprised him the most was what happened next. After taking the shuriken in the arm, Naruto stood up and declared something. Shortly after that, his globe filled with a green light that he had only seen once before. So, he has finally woke his bloodline limit. I knew it would be happening soon from what Iruka told me. What an interesting form it decided to take though. It matches Naruto perfectly, always willing to let his fists talk before his mouth. He grinned as Naruto released one of the fins to his newfound power and sent Iruka flying across the clearing. Then he saw Naruto say something to Hinata and Iruka, sending them running shortly after Naruto created hundreds of Kage Bunshins. When he saw Naruto jump back into the forest, he had a feeling of what was about to happen. The feeling was confirmed when each of the Bunshins started to explode, bouncing Mizuki around like a pinball until eventually none were left, and Mizuki was left laying in a crater. After watching a few more minutes, Sarutobi slowly started to walk outside to call off the search. He was proud of Naruto today. He took the news far better than any thought he would have. Not only that, but he found out one of his birthrights, as well as possibly made a friend he could confide in. But only time would tell how that would finally turn out. Konoha Forest. Iruka had no idea what had just happened, or what that strange armored arm of Naruto's was, but after the huge explosions, he knew he had to check on him. Straining to stand up from beside Hinata, he slowly inched his way back to where they had left Naruto. He didn't get far before Hinata was by his side once again, acting as support to help him walk. After several minutes of climbing, as well as several more of stumbling and falling over uprooted trees and broken branches, the duo made it back to the clearing where the fight occurred. The only problem was the crater that had to be nearly 10 feet deep and spanned the entire clearing, with Mizuki lying in the center. Hinata and Iruka both stared at the massive amounts of damage done by Naruto. "Naruto, just what in the world did you do to Mizuki? Naruto-kun, I hope you are okay." Both were pulled from their thoughts as they could hear coughing coming from behind them in the trees. Iruka could feel Hinata tense underneath his weight, and both looked towards the sound, waiting for the owner to reveal themselves. After several minutes, a clump of blonde hair with twigs and dirt hanging from it could be seen making its way out from behind some of the recently upturned foliage. It wasn't long after that the form of one Uzumaki Naruto came stumbling out to them. "Naruto! Naruto-kun!" shouted both as they went to Naruto's side. With Hinata setting Iruka down, she gently did the same to Naruto. Once he was down, it didn't take long for both to notice he still had that same armor-encased right arm and 2 fins on his back. "Naruto, what happened? What did you do? What is that strange armor on your arm?" asked the confused teacher, while he carefully checked Naruto over for injuries. Hinata was doing the same, but with more distance. As her shy nature made a return, seeing he was now okay, and a severely torn wardrobe revealing a well-toned and tanned body. Naruto sat there on the tree they were using as chairs. He leaned forward, with his arms resting against his legs, with his head hung down low so that no one could see his face. "Iruka-sensei, it's all true, isn't it? The Kyubi no Yuki was sealed in me by the Yondaime? That's why everyone hates me, isn't it? Why the villagers hate me? Why they attacked me? Why I could never play with the others? It's why you probably hate me too, right, sensei?" "I'm a monster." As Naruto was speaking, Iruka could see his shoulders shaking as the boy tried to restrain the building tears. Iruka just stared at Naruto, shocked at what he said. He was about to speak when suddenly a soft, gentle voice spoke before him. "No, Naruto-kun. Not everyone hates you. Some of us care for you, even now. Iruka-sensei would never have taken those shuriken and keikunai if he hated you. IW wouldn't be here now if I hated you, or if I was afraid of you, Naruto-kun. No, to me you were, or W will never be an M-monster. I think you are a hero, just like Yondaime-sama would have wanted." With each word coming out of her mouth, Hinata had taken a step forward until she was in front of Naruto. As she ended, she gently cupped his larger hands inside of her smaller ones. "You know, Naruto, she's right. If I hated you, I would never have taken you out to ramen all those times, or come here looking for you. I would have just looked at you the same way as everyone else. But here I am, with the wounds to prove I care about you. You are almost like family to me, like the Otuto, little brother, I never had, but always wanted. Hearing these words shocked Naruto, as he jerked his head up to look first at Hinata, then Irika. Why, you really mean that? You don't think I'll go killing everyone? Asked Naruto with a look similar to that of a scared and cornered animal. Nope, it never crossed my mind. I mean, sure, I hate the Kyuubi for what it did. He paused as he saw Naruto start to look down in shame again, but I know you are not the Kyuubi. If you were, you would have let Mizuki kill me and Hinata, and either run off with the scroll, or destroyed the village by now. If anyone should be considered a monster, it's Mizuki, and the other villagers. Hinata nodded in agreement with Irika as she continued to hold onto his hands. The three sat in silence for what felt like an eternity to Hinata, but it was only a few minutes. The silence finally ended up shattered by Naruto. So I guess this was all just to get me to steal the scroll. So there isn't a way I can become a genin, is there, Irika-sensei? I should have known. Even with those jutsus I learned, it was way too easy. Hearing this brought Hinata back to why she had been following Naruto around the entire night. Naruto-kun, if I could, I would gladly let you take my place. I do not deserve it as much as why you do. You worked so hard to make it, and why yet you failed, not wanting to see his face. She ducked her head back down, with her chin pressed firmly against her chest, and bangs blocking her face from sight. Nah, it's alright. Now I know why I failed earlier. Whatever this strange thing is on my arm caused me to fail. It's been causing unholy amounts of pain since last night, and acted up when I took the test. But next year, I know I'll ace it, and maybe we can be on the same team then. Besides, Hinata, you will make a great ninja. I mean, it had to take some real guts to come out here looking for me. Then you came to try to save Irika-sensei and myself from Mizuki-sensei. I don't know how well you fight or anything, but I'm sure you are strong. Irika grinned at his student, happy that he was finally becoming his old self once again. Hinata herself was blushing from the praise she received from Naruto. Well now, Naruto-kun, I don't think graduating this year is out of the question yet. Came an old voice, which carried a great deal of wisdom with it. Turning around, Irika, Hinata, and Naruto could see the Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi, along with several Anbu and Jonin walking into the crater clearing. Gigi, grandfather, I didn't think you would find me so soon. Yes, sorry about breaking in and all. Started the suddenly nervous and ashamed Naruto. Looking at him, with his left hand nervously scratching the back of his head, and seeing him unable to make eye contact struck the old Hokage as humorous for some reason. It also reminded him of another blonde prankster, who had done something very similar to Naruto's recent stunt. Well, Naruto-kun, it is kind of hard to miss the series of explosions you let loose on Mizuki. But I think we have something more important to talk about, such as your Kekkei Genkai, and the Forbidden Scroll. Naruto had enough decency to look bashful, but yet still look excited about having a bloodline limit. First though, Naruto-kun, you need to turn off your ability. To do that is fairly simple. Close your eyes, and imagine it going away. Think of it as a piece of clothing that you are removing, almost like a shirt or glove. With that, Naruto closed his eyes, and tried to picture the armor leaving his arm, and slowly revealing his true arm. As he did, those gathered around could see it happening. Slowly parts of the metal encasing it vanished in the same green light that it formed from. It started with the fins on his back, from their tips, down to the shoulder blade. Once those were gone back to whence they came, it started at the shoulder. Slowly it moved down the length of his arm, first the golden and silver portion of the armor peeling and flaking away. As that vanished, it left the underarmor, which looked almost just like the normal muscle fiber of an arm. Finally, even that was gone, leaving only Naruto's original arm, and the clothing that covered it. Naruto opened his eyes to see the pleased and amused smile of the old Hokage, and the surprised eyes of Hinata and Irika. Without even looking to his arm, Naruto could tell it was a success. Okay, so that is how I get rid of it. But how did I use it in the first place? I mean, I don't know what activated it, or what caused me to use the power of it. Then there's me knowing how to suddenly do one-handed seals. I mean, it is all kind of surreal, Gigi. Asked the now confused Naruto. I imagine it is a bit much to take in all in a single night, but before I can explain things, we should get to my office, there we can discuss this to a greater length. Then there is also the fact that the Hyuga have been scouring the village looking for a certain heiress. The final part was whispered, and said with an amused grin on his aged face. Now then, let's return the scroll, and we can talk about the things that have occurred, as well as things from the past. And with those final words, the Sandaime Hokage turned and started his way back to the village. Behind him, Hinata and Naruto followed with an injured Irika leaning on them. As they left, the Anbu in the clearing could only stare at the destruction brought down on the little area, each wondering what had just happened there, as well as what was the strange thing that was on the young Uzumaki's arm and back. What had many intrigued was the white beam of light that was seen from this area shortly before the explosions. Hokage Tower. It took them nearly an hour, with the injured Irika, to finally make it to the tower, but they made it. It was only after a brief stop to get Irika fixed up that the pace was quickened and finally brought them to the tower. Once in, and in the Sandame's office, and after he secured the forbidden scroll once again, they were all seated around the desk of the Hokage. Each one had a different reaction crossed their face, from curious to anxious, and ashamed of what might be said next. Yes, now that has been taken care of, there are just a few more things to do. With this he looked towards Hinata. Hinata-chan, I have already sent a messenger to let your father know you have been found, and in perfect health. I'm sure he will wish to confirm this himself, so he will be here shortly. Before then, we need to speak about several things. Naruto gulped, as the Hokage settled his steady, piercing gaze upon him. Is he mad about what I did earlier? Thought Naruto as he started to sweat bullets. First, I have to say, Naruto-kun, that jutsu you used earlier. It is truly a deadly one. I have heard of it from several jonin, chunin, and anbu, but now that I have witnessed it myself, there is only one thing to be done. He turned to Irika to see him shaking his head with a slight pink tint coming to his cheeks, and Hinata with a questioning look on her face. Naruto himself looked rather amused with himself, and was busy scratching the back of his head with a smile plastered on his face. Secondly, there is the fact that you stole a very dangerous object. If this scroll had fallen into the wrong hands, there is no telling what they could do with a number of the jutsus written down within it. The punishment for such an offense is death. Hinata and Naruto couldn't help but gasp at the news. Is he going to kill and Naruto-kun? What? I thought the old man cared for me. Is it because I know about IT? The Hokage, who had looked on amused at first, began to regret his choice of words. He could see the hurt across Naruto's face, and the worry on Hinata's. Releasing a deep sorrow-filled sigh, he decided to clear things up. It is hard to believe that those two would accept such a thing so easily. Just what have they seen in their short life? However, that does not apply here, seeing as how you were tricked into this, Naruto-kun. So you and Hinata-chan may rest easy. In fact, since you were led to believe doing this would allow you to become a genin by one of your sensei, he paused as he gave a subtle nod to Irika, who smiled to the old Hokage, and gingerly stood from his chair to move in front of Naruto. Now Naruto, I want you to close your eyes for me. Keep them closed till I tell you to open them, okay? Naruto nodded his head, and did as he was told by the one he considered his brother/father figure. Naruto felt a tugging on his head, as what felt like his goggles were removed. Shortly after that he felt something softer, with a firm front being placed around his forehead. After several more seconds, in whom several hairs were caught and something being tied behind his head, he finally heard Irika tell him to open his eyes. As Naruto started to open his eyes, he heard a small gasp from beside him where Hinata was sitting. The first thing Naruto noticed was Irika in front of him, but something was off. It took him a few seconds to realize what it was. Irika-sensei, where's your high-tie-it? Asked the confused blonde. Smiling, and bracing himself for what was to come, Irika responded, Congratulations Naruto, you graduate. Naruto sat there stunned for several minutes, letting the information sink in. Once it sunk in, he pinched himself several times, just to make sure he wasn't dreaming. Along with that he looked around the room. Well, if this is a dream, it sure is a new one, seeing Hinata is here with me, instead of Sakura-chan. But somehow, that just seems better. When I'd been around Sakura-chan I was always worried about getting my head bashed in, but with Hinata it is strangely peaceful. After looking around the room, and seeing the smiles on each person's face, he finally let one of his true smiles slip across his. This was his true smile that everyone could tell he was truly happy about something and not one put on as part of a mask to hide pain, sorrow, and loneliness. Yeah, I did it. I did it. Thanks Irika-sensei. Loudly exclaimed the now hyper-blonde as he went around the room, first jumping on and hugging Irika, then doing the same to the aged Hokage. He ended his little trip around the office by running up to Hinata, the Hokage, and Irika watched in amusement, and picked her up off her feet, giving her a hug in his excitement. Once his arms wrapped around her, and lifted her from the chair as he twirled around, Hinata's mind promptly shut down as a dark shade of red found its way to her face preceding her passing out. Irika was the first to save the girl from any more embarrassment as he stopped Naruto, and picked Hinata up to place her on the couch in the office. Once Naruto had calmed back down, he took his seat once again, remembering there was still more to discuss. Yes, well now that you have that out of your system, started Sarutobi, only to be cut off by Naruto. Yeah, I know, the bastard Kyuubi is sealed in me. I wasn't too surprised honestly. I mean sure I was shocked at first. But then I remembered the words of the villagers, the things they say and do. The way my apartment is always. Naruto caught himself before he said too much about his place of residence. He knew how the two would react. He felt he had said enough when he told them. He wasn't too surprised to hear it now. Naruto, if things were that bad, why didn't you say anything? We would have helped, or stopped them. Spoke the now depressed Irika. I didn't say anything because I don't want pity. I can take care of myself. My place might be trashed, and my things torn up, but what is important is always safe. As long as that is true, then it doesn't matter how many couches or pairs of clothes I go through. Besides, I rather like camping out when my place is too trashed," spoke the blonde with a small, sad smile on his face. "Naruto, perhaps you are truly ready to know about your family, and perhaps given time the people of Konoha may see you for who you truly are." "Fair enough, Naruto. Now there's the part about your newfound Kekkei Genkai, which I'm sure you want to know something about." "Yeah, you of all people should know, Gigi, that I was always looking for my family, or at least something to let me know what happened to them, or who they were," whispered a very solemn Naruto. "I will not admit to knowing or even understanding it. From what I have seen and heard, it is a rare gift that your family has. The Kekkei Genkai was given the name of altar, due to the fact that it allows you to manipulate the surrounding molecular reality. When used, the user is able to shape the energy and resources around you to a new form. In your case, it took the form of an armor-encased arm. I believe, though, that the form for each person depends upon their personality. You are the type to rush headfirst into things and let your fists do the talking for you. Your new power responded to that will and took the shape most befitting you. I know I may not have explained it perfectly, hence why I dug up this scroll left to you by your father. I must warn you, though, what you read may upset you, and it is all highly confidential information. As such, only those I feel necessary, and those you wish to know, are allowed to hear this. Do you understand and agree to these terms, Naruto-kun?" asked the Hokage as he leaned forward onto his desk, while clasping his hands in front of him and resting his chin upon it. "There is also the fact about Kyuubi being within you. That is also highly classified information. It is true majority of the village knows this, but it is only those that are older than your generation that know this. I made a law shortly after the Kyuubi was defeated. The law was that no one was to speak of this to the younger generation under penalty of death. This was done for your benefit, so that you may have a chance to make friends." The Hokage paused as his shoulders sagged down. "Sadly, it seems that many children followed their parents' lead and treated you how they saw you treated by the adults. But it seems that there are a few exceptions to this rule, one such is right over on the couch now." At that, Naruto and the two others in the room looked over towards Hinata's resting form, each little small smile passed across their faces. Naruto sat there to think it over. On one hand, the answers he was always looking for were right in front of him. Who were his parents? Where were they? Were they alive or dead? Were they great heroes, or disgraces to the village? Did he truly want to know about them, and his heritage, as well as what seemed to be his new birthright? Then there was the fact that who could he share this with? Iruka-sensei would be one of the first, and maybe only people right now. But then there was Hinata. She seemed to know so much about him already, and accepted him, even knowing that the Kyuubi was sealed inside of him. She brought him back from despair with her kind words. He had never seen her do harm to anyone throughout their time in the academy. Somehow he knew he could trust her with whatever he felt, that she could be a person to confide in when he needed. To him she felt like a kindred spirit. "Gigi, I want to know. I need to know," claimed Naruto finally. With those words, the Hokage reached into his robes and pulled out a scroll with a spiral seal holding it shut. It was the same seal that the Hokage always wanted Naruto to have on his clothing, claiming it was his family crest. Once Naruto had a hold of the scroll, the Hokage started to explain what it was, only for Naruto to stop him. "A blood seal, right? Only one related to the person who sealed it can open it. One of the best ways to keep information a secret when you don't want those it doesn't pertain to find out." He paused as he noticed the bewildered looks of the two adults. "What? Naruto-kun, how did you know that? Those are not normally covered in the academy. Only in more advanced sealing texts would you find such things. Such things normally are not taught to others unless it is by family, or the person has reached a certain rank." "I don't know, honestly. I guess it started about 4 years ago when I just turned 8. I was going to leave my apartment to go to the woods that night. I can't stand being there on my birthday, when I found a scroll with my name on it, stuck to my door. Then I would find others tacked on my door on almost every holiday. Inside they would tell me to keep the information I learned to myself, and only reveal it to Gigi, when I became a genin. Each scroll contained sealing jutsus, and training guides for me to use. I could never find out who was putting them there, and I never found anything in them as very useful. But it was something for me to learn, since I couldn't get into the library and my books were torn up. But these scrolls were like a life preserver. One of the first ones told me to act almost opposite of what I really am. Don't get me wrong, I want to be Hokage for the reasons I've always said, and those pranks are fun to do. I do hate Sasuke, but that is all really. I hate Orange, I don't like Sakura-chan, I'm not really as loud as I act at times, and I'm not as dumb as people think. After doing it for about a year, it all started to become natural for me. I made it into a long-term mission for myself. I wanted to see how long I could keep up the act without anyone knowing. In the end, I think it was these scrolls that stopped me from doing some very stupid things. Naruto-kun, is there any chance that you could let me see these scrolls? I might be able to tell where they come from then," asked the Hokage. But inside of his mind, though, he was asking many other questions. Who would give him such information? If all of the scrolls were about seals and sealing methods, I only know of a few who would give such things to him. Of those few, I can only think of one that would know Naruto enough, or care enough, to want him to grow. Sorry, Gigi, but whoever gave me these scrolls wanted me to promise to never show them to others unless it was the person I married, an apprentice, or my own child. While I may not know who they are, I always keep my promises. But I can say that it was because of one of the newest scrolls that I found out why I sucked at the Bunshin no Jutsu. I was always overdoing the chakra needed for a basic one. The newest scroll gave me several training exercises to do to help control my chakra better. But now I see another reason why it was always so hard for me to control my chakra. The Kitsune team's chakra that could be leaking into me might be another source of the problem. But I think I've gotten past it for now. Iruka and the Hokage smiled at the enthusiasm put behind the final words. Very well, Naruto. It was at this time that a loud voice could be heard from outside of the doors leading. The three that were currently awake inside of the office could hear the unmistakable voice of a person who thought too much of themselves. To those who knew him, it could only be one person, Hyuga Hayashi, the current head of the Hyuga clan. With a look showing his distaste for the upcoming discussion, Sarutobi called out for the guards to let Hayashi enter. Enter he did. Hayashi had thrown the doors open and stormed into the room with a flourish of his white and beige robes. Foregoing all pleasantries, he started the friendly topic of discussion up. Hokage-sama, where is my daughter? Demanded the angry, yet seemingly caring, Hyuga. No need to be worried, Hayashi, she is doing fine. As a matter of fact, she is lying over on the couch. She has had a long night, which is something I need to speak with you about as well. It was at this point that Hayashi calmed down and took stock of his surroundings. As he did, he was surprised to see who was present in the room. First he noticed Iruka, who he could understand since he was Hinata's instructor at the academy. After Iruka, he noticed Naruto looking him straight in the eyes, with a look he had not seen in the last 12 years. Something in Naruto's eyes showed an inner strength to Hayashi, one that made it seem like the boy could battle to hell and back should he need to. Hayashi didn't realize it, but he had been staring back into the eyes of the young man, with his mouth slightly open, a testament to the surprise he saw in the young eyes. Hokage-sama, might I ask why these two are present? I thought that this would not concern them, perhaps Yumino-san, but not Uzumaki-san, asked the stoic Hyuga. Yes, well, Hayashi, that is what I needed to talk to you about. You see, Hinata-chan has been following Naruto-kun today. If you were not aware of these, he stole the forbidden scroll of seals a few hours ago. Your daughter followed, and watched as he studied and learned some of what was contained inside of it. He paused as he could see the rage in the Hyuga's eyes, nerves around his sockets twitching to activate the deadly jujitsu of the Hyugas. He did nothing to harm her, Hayashi, she simply fainted. That is entirely understandable after what she has learned today. You see, Naruto was tricked into stealing the scroll, with the promise of graduating from the academy by Mizuki. Mizuki would have killed young Naruto had Iruka not shown up in time to prevent it. It was then that Mizuki resorted to revealing Naruto's and Konoha's darkest secret. Kyuubi was sealed inside of Naruto. Once again Hayashi's eyes flashed with rage, but this time it seemed to be aimed at Mizuki's actions. He then tried to eliminate both Iruka and Naruto in a single attack. Your daughter came running out in attempt to save them. Naruto, however, took the brunt of the assault by himself, and it was then he found his legacy. Once he did, he defended your daughter and Iruka from Mizuki, and defeated Mizuki with the help of several jutsus he learned from the scroll. Hayashi took the moment of silence to observe and appraise Iruka's, Naruto's, and Hinata's injuries. All three looked fine, with the exception of a few minor scrapes and bruises. Out of the three involved, Iruka looked to be the worst off. His torso was heavily bandaged, yet still showed some hints of red. There were several places along his arms and legs that were bandaged as well, but none near as severely as his torso. I see. How did my daughter take the news of him being the container of the Kyuubi? Asked Hayashi to the room. Being the best to answer, Iruka fielded the question. She was surprised at first, as anyone would be. The same was true of Naruto as well. However, after Naruto defeated Mizuki and we came out of hiding to check on Naruto, she was the first to comfort him about the issue. You see, Naruto thought we would both see him as monsters, or that we hated him. Hinata told him she saw him as a hero, and not a monster. That he was, and is still Uzumaki Naruto to her. Finished Iruka finally. The look on his face showed Hayashi how proud he was of Hinata for her actions. I see, Hokage-sama, if I could, may I speak with you and Yumino-san in private? Uzumaki-san and Hinata could wait outside while we speak. This may also give him a chance to read over the scroll his family left for him. That may be best since we are here to answer any questions he may have of us. Iruka looked towards the Hokage, the back to Hayashi, wondering what they would need to speak of that would concern Naruto and Hinata, yet not want them to listen in on. Nodding in agreement, the Hokage turned to Naruto. Naruto, would you mind stepping outside with Hinata while we discuss something? I promise to call you back in as soon as possible. I hope by then you have some questions for me that I may answer. Just nodding his head, Naruto walked over to the still sleeping Hinata, placed one of her arms around his neck, then moved his under her legs, and behind her head to finally hoist her into the air and step out of the room. Once he was out, and Iruka made sure the door was secured, Hayashi took Naruto's previously seat, while Iruka took his once again. I will not beat around the bush, Hokage-sama. I wish for Uzumaki to be on my daughter's team. He is spite and image of his father, and if he is anything like him, he will be able to bring out my daughter's talent. The only thing she lacks is confidence, and Uzumaki has it in abundance. I can understand that, Hayashi-sama, started Iruka, but you of all people know that the council wants us to divide the teams by their academy standings. If we make this exception, it may seem like we are playing favorites. Believe me, I would like Naruto and her be on the same team. She seems to have a calming effect on him, as well as already knowing one of his most important secrets. She accepts him for who he is, so he would not have to hide anything from her. If we could, Iruka would have continued, except for being silenced by the glare of Hayashi. Tell me, Sarutobi, who controls the military force of Konoha? Have you forgotten that it is yours to control as you see fit within reason? Or have you forgotten who you were, and let the advisory council tell you how to do your job? The families that make up the Shinobi Council have been a little disheartened lately with how you have run the military might of Konoha. They say that you have become meek, and are no longer the professor that you used to be. If you could not do this, then I'm afraid I would have to agree with them. The Hokage looked at the clan head and couldn't help but smile at the words. It had been some time since he had run things how he felt. In all honesty, he had felt like he was just a placeholder until he could find a suitable replacement. Ever since the Yondaime had passed away, the advisory council had used it as a point to take control of most parts of the government. And he in his old age let them dictate what they wished, unless it had to do with Naruto, which is where he would draw the line. This had cost him a great many voices among the council, and it showed when he tried to implement programs. But with the words of Hayashi, he felt something spark within him once again. It was something that seemed to have died along with the Yondaime during the battle with Kyubi. It was his shinobi or ninja pride. The pride of doing a job well done, and protecting those he cared for. It was true he protected them still, but reflecting on it, it was never to the best of his ability. So many things had happened that could have been done differently, one of which was being discussed now. The life and well-being of Naruto, who he would never let fall to the masses. Hayashi, it seems your time with Erasure under Jiraiya has had an effect upon you. You are right, the military forces of Konoha are mine to control, and the civilian advisory council be damned. Iruka, who do you propose would to be the third member for the team? Iruka was shocked, but pleased to hear the words formed the Hokage. Well, according to the last meeting we had earlier with the Jonin up for teams, it was going to be the Ino Shikucho team under your son, and Hinata, Aburame Shino, and Inuzuka Kiba under Yuhi Kurenai. The only gap we had was Harino Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke under Hatake Kakashi, which was by request of Kakashi, and demand of the council. If we went with normal circumstances, Naruto would be placed on that team. We could easily remove Sakura, and place her in Hinata's slot on Kurenai's team. If we did that though, it would be causing a volatile group with Sasuke and Naruto, and then there is the Uchiha and Hyuga feud. If I were to make a team, I would. I will not have my daughter on any team with the Uchiha. This has nothing to do with any family feud, but his sanity. It should be easy to tell the child walks a dark path, one which he cares not for friends or teammates. I would dare say that given the chance he would easily turn his back upon this village for a chance at revenge. Cut in Hayashi. Okay, as I was going to say, you want Hinata to be on a team with Naruto in hopes of her gaining some of his confidence. At the same time, I would like for him to be placed on a team with people who would accept him for who he is. Hinata is already cemented into one slot, so this brings us to the final slot. Both members so far lack one major thing as far as I can tell, and that is strategy, or brains. Aburame Shino, and Nara Shikamaru, as well as Harino Sakura could fill that. Sakura however hates Naruto with a passion, which Naruto seems to return those feelings, so she is out. I have never seen Shino or Shikamaru act overly rude, or offensive towards him, however with Shino's ability it would unbalance the team, at least when compared to the others. As such only Shikamaru would leave it fair, plus it might motivate him some. For the other teams, we would have to move some people around, but still have what we needed for them. We can place Sasuke, Sakura, and Choji under Kakashi. The only problem we may have with that group is Sasuke and Sakura being unfair towards Choji. Not to mention that Kakashi is bound to be more than a little unfair in his teaching methods. Neither of the other two genin on the squad has been nice to Choji in the past, but it is the only thing doable to keep the teams balanced. The final team, under Kurenai I suppose, would consist of Shino, Kiba, and Ino. It can be a multi-purpose squad for tracking, scouting, and infiltration. All three can perform the duties of scouts, while Shino and Ino would be the best for infiltration and spying. Kiba and Shino would also be the best viable options for the role of tracker. Under Kurenai, Ino would also be able to learn and master genjutsu techniques, which would be perfect for her. My only concern is with giving the final team to your son, Hokage-sama. No offense to him, but he seems to be more of a laid-back type of person. That is fine with Shikamaru, since it mimics him perfectly. But with Naruto, he might become a little agitated, and be unable to keep up with him. That is why I propose a new sensei for the team. Irika dropped out of instructor mode, and started to go through some papers that were on the Hokage's desk. From what Hayashi and the Hokage could tell, they were team request forms put in, and kept in case a team fitting the requested one popped up, or if the academy teachers and Hokage felt the jonin was perfect for. After several minutes of digging, Irika finally pulled out a form that looked to have been sitting there for more than a couple of years. That is why I feel this person would be perfect. Not only does she have the energy to keep up with Naruto, but she also has the ability to motivate someone like Shikamaru, and instill confidence into Hinata. She requested a team 2 years ago, but at the time there was not one anyone felt like placing with her. But with this group, she would be perfect. Her name is Mitarashi Anko, and she would be the perfect jonin for this team. Outside the office, Naruto walked out of the office, and gently set Hinata down on one of the couches there. Once done, he walked to what is normally the secretary's desk, and sat in her chair. Once he was seated, he reached into his kunai holster, and pulled one out to quickly cut the tip of his finger. Once cut, he quickly ran it across the seal of the scroll. In a flash of light, and a crackle of chakra, the scroll floated into the air as the seal released, and allowed the scroll to fall back into Naruto's hands. After placing the kunai back in the holster, he braced himself for what he was about to read. He slowly unrolled the scroll to reveal the Uzumaki spiral first, followed by some text written fluently and elegantly. Over the text were several watermarks, almost as if someone was crying while writing the scroll out. Along the edges, blood-stained fingerprints could be seen running the length of the scroll. After glancing over those few things, he finally settled in to read the message that may have come from his father and mother, or whatever relative left the message for him. Dear Naruto, I know it may seem strange reading this right now. I mean, I don't even know how old you might be right now. But it seems like old Sarutobi has finally seen fit for you to read this message, and find out about your family. I wanted him to keep this from you till you were able to fend for yourself. Now his idea of that may be different from mine, but I believe he wouldn't give it to you without believing in your skills. You see, Naruto, throughout my career as a ninja for Konoha, I have made a great number of enemies. Entire countries hate and fear me, and our clan name. I had many names that were listed in the bingo books of the IWA, Kiri, Suna, Kusa, Kumo, AIM. Well, to make it short, I was listed in several bingo books across the continent. Some listed me as the Leaf's Yellow Flash because of my ability to move around the battlefield and destroy armies in a single assault. Others listed me as the Tempest because of my battle prowess, making me as dangerous as a raging storm. But inside of the walls of Konoha, I was known as the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto froze at this, and his hands grabbed hold of the desk and clenched. He started to squeeze the wood, and didn't know how hard he was doing it till parts splintered off into his hands. Feeling the splinters in his hands brought him back from his small bout with rage. Before going on to read, he couldn't help but wonder one little thing. How could my own father do this to me? How could he seal a monster like the Kyuubi into his own son? After yelling that mentally, he continued on with the scroll. I know what you might be thinking, Naruto. How could I have left you after what I did right? Believe me, if I had any other choice I would have taken it, but at the time this was the only thing I could do. I gather by now you know of the Kyuubi being sealed inside of you by me. How your life has been since, I could only hope the village took my last words to heart. Yeah, right, those bastards made it a living hell when they could. When I told Sarutobi of my plans, I let him know that I wanted you to be seen as a hero of the Leaf. But if I know humans half as well as I know Erosenin, then they probably made life hell for you. I'm sorry if this happened, and I wish I could have made it anything but that. I'm sure I could have requested for one of my old teammates to take you in, but I would rather you not grow up spoiled like so many other heirs do. Only God knows how much I would have hated for you to be like one of the Uchihas, as arrogant as they are. I wanted you to grow up as a normal child, but still a hero. I wanted you to grow up unspoiled, that way you would hold things closer to you when you gained them. Because having things given to you does nothing to help you appreciate them, but working for things makes the reward all the sweeter. This is what I believed in, and what my sensei beat into me, literally. On the night of the Kyuubi, your mother was sent into premature labor. You were not due to be born for several more weeks, but due to the stress caused from the attack she was forced into it. Because of this, sadly, I'm sorry Naruto, I'm trying to control myself while writing this for you, but it's just too hard to do right now because she went into labor prematurely. She was not entirely ready, nor were you. When the doctors performed the surgery to remove you from your mother's womb, she lost a great deal of blood. Because of this, they were never able to. The last part was too hard to read from all of the tear stains that covered it. Naruto didn't need an expert to tell him though. From the way his father spoke, he could guess what happened. My mom, she died giving birth to me. Fighting back his own tears once again, he continued on reading. When I heard the news, I broke down, wondering how I would find the strength to battle the Kyuubi, and still be able to watch you grow up a healthy boy, into a strong young man. Nothing I could think of though would allow this. It was during this time that I found a way to defeat the Kyuubi, an ancient yet powerful Fuin jutsu. It was called the Shiki Fujin, along with the Hack no Fuin Shiki. Using these would allow me to defeat the Kyuubi by sealing it into a container. The only problem was that no tree, rock, shrine, or house could contain the immense power of the Kyuubi. The only thing that had a chance to do it would be a child, whose chakra coils were not yet developed. There were several children that could have been selected, but as Hokage, how could I ask my people do to something I was unwilling to do? As the Hokage, I had to be sure I did everything within my strength before I imposed on another. This is why I was left with no other choice but to use you as the container for the Kyuubi. Believe me, Naruto, it was not an easy choice. First I lost your mother, and now I would possibly lose you, or die in the sealing, and leave you fatherless. If I did not perform the sealing, the Kyuubi would continue to rampage, and destroy Konoha, and who knows how many it would have killed. So it is my hope, Naruto, that you understand why I did what I had to do. I ask not for your forgiveness, because how could you give it to someone who you never knew? I only ask you for your understanding, because if there was any other way, I would have done it. That is the reason why I am sitting here now, writing this scroll to you, one last message to give to you before I leave with you in my arms to do my final duty, as the Yondaime Hokage. I did not plan on leaving you entirely alone though, my son. I will have to wrap this up quickly though, the Kyuubi is getting closer to the village, and I need to be there soon. Inside of this scroll you will see several others sealed inside. If I know Jiraiya, he has probably taught you about these, and so it should not take you long to release them. Inside you will find information about your mother, your bloodline limit, inheritance, family manner, and several jutsus I thought you may like, if you haven't learned them already. There will also be a map, which will only respond to the unique chakra of someone from our family. It will give you another message, one which I will not dare write down in this scroll. Son, I hope you grow up to, or have grown up to be a great person. Never let your anger or hatred blind you, and lead you astray. Always keep a clear mind, and focus on what is important in life. Enjoy yourself while you can, and always be there for your friends, family, and village. With my deepest regards and love. Kazama Erasure, Yondaime Hokage. P.S. If you ever meet Jiraiya, tall white-haired man with red tear streaks under his eyes, remember a few things. He may be a great teacher, but he is still a lecher. It is his one true weakness that allows others to manipulate him. Do not turn out like him, because if you do, you may regret it when you find a wife. Naruto looked down on the scroll, shocked at some of the news written within. He still felt anger inside of him for his father doing what he did, but as one dreaming of becoming Hokage, he somehow had to agree with what was said. Could a Hokage ask his villagers, the ones he wants to protect, make such a sacrifice, without being willing to do it first? Would it not make him a bad leader then? His father did what any great leader would want to do. He died protecting his people. In doing so he sacrificed the life of his wife, himself, and his only child. He wasn't able to hold back the tears anymore. Finally the shock of everything he read had sunk in, and his tears started to flow freely. For the first time in a long time, Uzumaki Kazama Naruto cried out of sadness openly. It was this sound that Hinata woke up to. Hinata was sleeping peacefully, dreaming of hugging Naruto, and perhaps being on the same team as him. Both would get to know each other more, and then perhaps Naruto would start to return her feelings. They would become chunin together, and continue seeing more and more of each other. It wasn't long before her dreams started to become too risque for her, and the sound of someone crying filtered into her dream world. So as she woke, and started to sit up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she saw something she could honestly say she had never seen before. Naruto crying. So quickly overcoming her shock at the rare sight, she stood up from the couch, and slowly walked towards where Naruto sat, moving slowly, so as not to startle him. As she drew closer, she finally dared to speak to him. And Naruto-kun, is he everything alright? She timidly asked the blonde. She stood there waiting for an answer, but one never came to her. Instincts taking over, she circled around the desk to stand behind him, and turned him around in the chair to face her. When he was facing her, she was caught by surprise as the look of sorrow in his face. To her, she had never seen him look so helpless and alone. Seeing him like that showed he was just as human as everyone else around him, as well as tugged on her heartstrings more than usual. After seeing him in this state for several seconds, she couldn't stop herself from wrapping her arms around his shoulders and pulling him in, as some dormant maternal instinct kicked in for her. Feeling the contact, Naruto brought his arms up to wrap around Hinata's body, and rested his head on her shoulders, still crying, and mumbling things about his father and Kyubi. Hinata for her part sat there and rubbed his back, much like her mother used to do with her. She rocked back and forth gently, as she tried to calm him down. Gone was her usual shyness, forgotten as she tried to help the source of her strength and happiness. After several minutes, she could finally hear the signs of him calming down, yet she continued to do as any mother would do for their child. After it seemed like Naruto calmed down, she gathered the nerves to speak to him. "Naruto-kun, what's wrong?" When he failed to answer verbally, she noticed him just motioning his head back towards the desk where the scrolls sat. Taking the small hint, she slowly released Naruto from the embrace, and walked over towards the desk to see what could have shaken him so much. Slowly she read through the message left on the scroll. It felt like she was reading a novel, something created in someone's mind, and not a person's personal history. Finding out that the yandere was Naruto's father, and made the ultimate sacrifice of his life, his wife's, and well as his only child, all to save the village. Seeing this made her respect the man more, yet also disgusted her to an extent. She couldn't help but wonder how someone could cause their own newborn child so much pain, even if unintentional. "Oh Naruto-kun," she let escape her lips as she finished reading the life-altering scroll. As she said this, the door leading towards the office of the Hokage once again opened to reveal her father and Irika. Upon seeing Naruto down on the ground with tear tracks running down his cheeks, Irika rushed over to make sure everything was okay. Hinata rolled the scroll up and gently placed it in Naruto's lap before heading towards her father's retreating figure. As she left down the hall, she cast one final glance back at the figures of Naruto and Irika. Shortly after those two departed, Irika picked up Naruto and led him into the office of the Hokage. After setting Naruto down and upon the couch, he took his leave to let the two speak. That night they spent a great deal of time speaking of Naruto's father and what he was like. While he was angry with him at first, Naruto slowly started to understand why he did what he had to do. Naruto slowly started to come around to the same line of thought, as he put himself in his father's shoes. He admitted to himself that while it may not have been an easy thing to do, it had to be done. What was one life compared to the hundreds of others that would be saved by the few sacrifices of his family? After talking about the circumstances leading up to the sealing, the Hokage left Naruto with the parting words requesting him to be sure to read the other items sealed within the scroll. He was told that they would reveal more about his bloodline, as well as his mother and family house. Due to Naruto's age, he would be unable to claim all of his inheritance at the current time, but should he make the rank of Chunin, then by law he would be allowed to take the privileges of all clan heads, and be allowed full access to his inheritance. It wouldn't be till 2 in the morning that Naruto made it back to his home, and gained the most peaceful sleep he had in the last few days. The next morning brought light into the eyes of a sleeping blonde-haired boy, who was struggling with everything he had to block it out. Despite his best efforts, he lost the battle, and cursed his newfound enemy, the sun. Rising from bed, and going about his morning routine on autopilot, he was still awash in his memories of the last day. "I have a family, they may be dead, but at least I know what happened to them now. I guess after I find out my team, I can read more of the scroll. Hopefully it will tell me how to use my bloodline limit, if not I'll have to look back on the fight with Mizuki-sensei." It was as he left his shower, shivering cold, and walked into his room that he suddenly remembered something he was supposed to do yesterday. "Kyuso, I forgot to do my laundry, just great, now I don't have anything to wear, I think." Slowly he started to sort through his clothes in his closet and his dresser, during which he found a pair of baggy black pants, which he bandaged closed at ankles. He also found another of his black t-shirts, with the red spiral on the chest, and smaller ones on the shoulders. There was only one problem with the shirt. It was just a little too small. It was small, but not too small, he could still wear it, and the only problem would be that it would be like a second set of skin. With little choice in the matter, after all, who would want to wear a shirt caked with mud and some dried blood, he pulled the shirt on and slipped his sandals. Doing some light stretches, and foregoing breakfast since he forgot to do the shopping as well, he finished his attire with the final piece, his high tie-it, wrapped securely around his forehead. He was about to jump out his window before his eyes fell upon the scroll left to him by his father. Pausing, he grabbed the scroll and placed it into his hip pouch. Once he was sure he had everything, he quickly jumped out of the window and made his way across the rooftops towards the academy, eager to see who would be on his team and start his newfound duties as a shinobi of the leaf. As he made his way to the academy, he couldn't help but feel like he was being followed. Stopping several times and looking back, he could never spot the culprit, so he continued along the rooftops. He wasn't far from the academy when he started to hear strange giggling coming from behind him. Stopping to turn and look, he came to see Sasuke's worst fear, and most terrifying nightmare, a fan club. Many of the girls he remembered from his class, and time in the academy. The ones on the streets though all looked like they were from the civilian populace, and each looking at Naruto with hearts in their eyes. The sight of so many girls around him startled him, and caused him to look around in search of the brooding Uchiha, only to find no trace of him anywhere in sight. Turning to look at the gathered girls again, he noticed something he had never expected to see before. All of their eyes were focused on him. This cannot be happening, since when do I have a fan club? With those thoughts, he set out at a full sprint towards the academy with a herd of screaming fans right behind him, all calling for their blonde-haired king. Several minutes later, as well as several more close calls, Naruto could be seen sneaking into the classroom via the back door, and taking a seat near a head of indigo-colored hair. Once seated, he tried his best to look invisible there, and pray none of his newfound fan club would notice him until Irika came into the room. It was while he was busy doing this that he heard a small gasp come from beside him. Mentally cursing himself, he turned towards the sound, and braced to be jumped. What meets his eyes was the form of a blushing Hinata, who quickly turned her head away and started to poke her fingers together, to what seemed like the beating of her racing heart. Ignoring the blush, he decided to greet the only person who knew his deepest secrets. "Hey Hinata, how are things going? You look like you are kind of sick or something. Maybe you are just hot from that thick jacket. Why not take it off?" When Hinata had turned to see Naruto, she could hardly believe how he looked. Gone was the orange jumpsuit, and the baggy clothes, and in its place was a Naruto with what looked like more fashion, and a shirt that showed off his well-toned body, at least for a 12-year-old boy. She couldn't believe herself that his muscles were so well defined at his age. She was taken by surprise by his comment, and hearing him ask her to take the jacket off made her skin glow. In this situation, she did what came natural to her, started poking her index fingers together at a pace similar to her pulse. It was during this time that she remembered how vulnerable he appeared the night before, and she suddenly realized one simple thing. She realized how similar their lives have been, both being hunted for things outside of their control. Her because of her eyes, and him because of the demons sealed in him. She had no idea how many people may have tried to kill him in an attempt to slay the demon, but if her life was any sign, she dreaded to imagine the numbers. Quickly shaking herself from her thoughts, and turning to see the slightly worried look on Naruto's face, she answers him. "And no, and Naruto-kun, I am fine. I think why you just see caught me by surprise is all," stuttered out the pale-eyed girl. Hearing those words, and nodding in understanding, Naruto quickly went through a mood change, with his face becoming more downcast than normal. "Hey, Hinata, about last night, I'm sorry for crying like a baby on your shoulder and all. I don't know, all that kind of hit me harder than I thought it would, but I'm glad I know now. Now I know what happened to my family, and I can quit wondering if they just abandoned me or something," whispered Naruto. Hinata was surprised at first, but once she thought back to the previous nights, she could tell how hard it must have been for him to say something about the previous night. "And no, Naruto-kun, there is nothing to be sorry for. I understand why it happened, and I think any 1W would have done the same thing in your situation. I think you were really strong last night, and very brave. I don't think anyone else could have handled what you did as well as you did," finished the shy girl, forgetting her shyness towards the end. "Thanks, Hinata, that really means a lot to me. Somehow I think you are the only one here who knows the real me, even with my act the last 4 years. You are, and would be an amazing friend," Hinata-chan whispered Naruto once again before turning to Irika, who had just entered the front of the room. Hinata started to blush as the suffix added onto her name, and couldn't help but notice how he had ignored the entrance of his one-time crush Haruno Sakura. She didn't get much time to think about it before Irika started to speak to the class. When many of the students saw Irika, they thought he had been through a war zone. His torso was still heavily bandaged, as well as parts of his arms and legs. Many had heard the explosions the night before, who couldn't, but none knew what could cause them. They could tell by the looks of their teacher that he must have been somewhere near the explosions. His wounds and slightly pale face did little to hide the fact. "Alright class, today is the day that you take the first steps to becoming a full-fledged Konohanin. You have done a great deal while in the academy, and now it is time for me to pass you on. Today you are no longer academy students, but genin of Konohagakure no Sado. You, along with 2 others on your team, will embark upon a new journey in life, one which will hold its ups and downs. During this time remember what makes Konoha strong, as well as its namesake. No one is ever alone. As long as you have your team and friends, nothing is impossible to defeat. It is with that thought that I announce the teams that you will become to view as a second family. I will call out a team number, then the 3 members of the team. After all teams have been called, there will be an hour break for lunch, and then you will return here for your Jonin sensei to pick you up." With that, Irika started to call out numbers, and names. Each person in the room started to wait to hear their name, and hoping to be placed on a team with their best friends. In some cases it prayed to be placed with who they had a crush on. Some spent this time talking, and Kiba was no exception. When Kiba saw Naruto come in, dressed in something other than orange, he was a little surprised at first. When he saw Naruto sit down next to Hinata, and the two start talking, he was even more surprised. He still couldn't see what she saw in him, but just about everyone in the class knew how she felt about him. Still though, he like many others took great pleasure in messing with Naruto. Kiba though really liked to bully him, since it seemed like no other teacher would do anything except Iruka. Hey Naruto Baka, this is only for those who actually graduated, so what are you doing here? And what is up with the new clothes, hoping to get Sakura to fall for you? Just drop the stupid hinge already, no one will actually believe you look like that. Turning his eyes from Iruka to Kiba, who was sitting in the row in front of him, Naruto let loose his own murderous glare. Shut up dog boy, in case you have noticed, I have a headband too, he tapped the object wrapped around his forehead. As for the clothes, well unlike you, I have to do my own laundry, and haven't had a chance to. Besides, even if I wore some of my dirtier clothes, I would still smell better than you, flea bag. This caused Kiba to growl, while ignoring the fact that he was currently scratching his head, sending small white flakes, and several black objects flying around. As for the henge, if you thought this was one, then you really suck at detection. This is the real me, and this comes from training. I mean, did you think that those pranks were just for fun? I used those to test my speed and stealth, as well as my ability to hide from a superior enemy. So I guess you could say I practiced infiltration missions all that time. Growling at the remarks, Kiba turned back to the front of the room, trying to ignore the sound of Naruto laughing behind him. Once facing the front, he reached down and scratched Akamaru's head, who was sitting on the desk. We'll show him boy, just wait, and he will get what he deserves. Akamaru gave a bark in agreement to his master's words. Ino was busy talking to Sakura. Both were arguing at first on who would be on Sasuke's team, but stopped when they heard Kiba talking to Naruto, who both failed to see when they entered the room. Neither of them could believe the look Naruto was now sporting. He still had the same old carefree smile, but there was something different about it now. It almost looked more natural, and not forced, like an invisible weight had been lifted from his shoulders. His hair was as messy as ever, but it wasn't in large pointed clumps, each one seemed to have separated into smaller ones, and were held above his eyes by his headband. Some reason Sakura felt she had seen something or someone very similar before, but could never place where. Each of them was surprised to see how his shirt was almost like a second skin. It seemed to hug all of his body, showing off well-developed muscles, and a nice fit body, more so than Sasuke, though they admitted it with some reluctance. They couldn't believe that someone besides their Sasuke-kun could ever look good in black. Well, Sakura couldn't, but Ino made no complaints about the comparison. He also seemed to be having an effect on Hinata. She seemed to be a little more confident, and not as shy or nervous around him. She was smiling and holding back giggles at his antics, and couldn't help but let a few slip out after his comments to Kiba. Though she quickly said a small apology, the change was still evident. Wow, who took the old Naruto, and changed him with that hunk? Asked a stunned Ino. Sakura just snorted, and turned to look towards Sasuke. Naruto is hardly a hunk, he is just a baka, who doesn't deserve to be here. I don't even know why he is here, maybe he just stole or bribed the teachers for that headband. Both would have said more except for hearing something that caught both of their short attention. Team 7, Uchiha Sasuke, Akimichi Choji, a groan from the back of the room formed. Choji showed how much he hated that. He could only hope for someone pleasant to talk to be the final members. Man, I hope Shika is the final member. I would even put up with Kiba if Shino. Hinata or Naruto wouldn't be bad either, just please not a Sasuke fangirl. His thoughts were shattered, and his head hit the desk with Iruka's next words. Haruno Sakura will be led by Hatake Kakashi. Which was followed by a shout of joy, and one of protest from Sakura and Ino respectively. Shikamaru could feel for his longtime friend. Don't worry Choji, maybe it won't be as bad as you think. Besides, we can still talk and hang out after team practices are over. He smiled seeing his friend's mood lighten up some with those words. After hearing that team though, he wondered what the others would be like. Iruka could see the sadness floating around Choji, and felt sorry for doing it. But he hoped it would help to bring him out of his shell some, so maybe he could make friends with someone other than Shikamaru, and to a lesser extent Ino. He continued on with the next team. Team 8, Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino. He paused as he looked discreetly at Ino and imagined her outrage at the next bit of news. Yamanaka Ino, led by Yuhi Kurenai. True to his thoughts, Ino screamed in outrage at being placed with a smelly dog and a creepy bug guy. Iruka smiled to himself as he looked the class over. What caught his eye the most, and caused his smile to increase in size, was the change in Naruto. No longer was he a loner, who seemed to force his happiness to the surface. he was now what seemed to be himself. Honest and carefree, and what seemed to pass as attractive to many of the female members of the class. There will be no Team 9, as that team is still in circulation from last year. Therefore, Team 10, Hyuga Hinata, he smiled when her eyes came to him, and then moved back to Naruto, almost pleading with the gods that he would be on her team. Nara Shikamaru, he grinned as the lazy boy actually seemed to be paying attention for once. And Uzumaki Naruto, lead by Mitarashi Anko. You are all free for lunch now. Remember to be back here in an hour for your sensei to pick you up. With that, Iruka turned, and slowly walked away from the shouts of joy running throughout the entire class. Hokage Tower. Sitting in the Hokage's office were the gathered jonins for this year's class, as well as those from the year before. Those for the current class were looking over the files given to them by the Hokage, getting to know their new students. Currently though, there was one jonin missing from the group, as well as the Hokage himself. Despite this, they continued talking amongst themselves. So, Kurenai, I see you get the Inuzuka, Abirame, and the Yamanaka, a strange mix, don't you think? Said a lazy voice from across the table. The speaker wore a green jonin vest, with a black shirt, pants, and mask that covered his mouth, nose, and nearly his left eye. Over his left eye was his Konoha Haitayat, which also held back his busy silver hair. Yes, Kakashi, it does seem like a strange bunch, but when you look at it from Iruka's view, it does make sense. I had planned to make it only a tracking team, but with Ino being added into the group, I can do more with them. We can now do scouting, with ease considering the Yamanaka jutsus. Then there is also infiltration, which works to the strengths of Shino and Ino. Tracking is also doable with the use of Shino and Kiba. Granted, it may not be as effective as it would have been with Hinata, but still doable. This also gives me a perfect candidate to pass on some of my more useful genjutsu to. Sure, Haruno Sakura is a perfect genjutsu type, but I think it will be more potent with Ino. There are just too many ways to be able to work it into her family jutsus, and combine with Kiba and Shino. Stated the raven-haired, crimson-eyed beauty known as Yuhi Kurenai. Today she decided to go with a more traditional style of dress to make a better first impression on her genin. She wore a tight red shirt, covered by the familiar form of the jonin combat vest. She also had on a pair for slightly baggy black pants, bandaged at the ankles, and a holster for her weapons on her right thigh. You may be right. I seem to have an odd batch as well, though I am pleased to note that I do have the Uchiha. This will make it easier to teach him once he awakens his Sharingan. Looking at Sakura's information, I'd have to agree about her being a genjutsu type. She seems to have near perfect control of her chakra, but that could just be someone overstating her skills. She was head in the class in the written portion, but in other areas she didn't fare too well. Then there is Choji, who will most likely depend upon his family jutsus. If I could teach Sakura a few genjutsu, she may be able to keep an enemy busy enough for him to hit them with one. I just hope that the two of them do not cause too many problems within the team though. Drawled out Kakashi again. Then there is Team 10. Came a random voice from the gathered jonin. Yeah, that is an oddball bunch, the Hyuga heiress, the heir of the Nara clan, and rumored closet genius, and finally the demon brat. Then look at the jonin for the team, and they would have to be the misfit team. Added in another. If what I heard is true, then the Hyuga lacks a great deal of confidence, so she can't be that great and probably just barely passed. The Nara is a lazy ass, who would only move if he needed to. The Uzumaki, well, I don't know, I heard he failed the tests 3 times already, including this year's test. Spoke Added in Kakashi. You never know, Anko might be able to turn them around, after all none of you know her like I do. Kurenai, your youthful optimism is refreshing. But tell me, what makes you believe that? Surely this team is full of what my rival has stated, the odds of them becoming successful shinobi are very slim. Claimed a man clad in a green skin tight spandex bodysuit, with jonin vest, and orange leg warmers. The truly disturbing thing, aside from the bodysuit, was the eyebrows that were hairier than a caterpillar. Just call it women's intuition guy. Some reason I think there is something special about Uzumaki Naruto. As a genjutsu user, I develop a habit of watching everything very closely. All those pranks he pulls, and the way he acts, there is just something off about all of it. This caused many to think back to the things they had witnessed the boy doing over the years. In the end, many started to agree with the woman, others wrote it off as a woman reading too deeply into things. None would believe it when they were proven wrong. Naruto's apartment. The Hokage decided to help the woman known as Mitarashi Anko learn a little more about Naruto's life. So he decided to bring her to his apartment. Some of this was out of concern for how Naruto was living. What he saw in the apartment, and at the front door, was not what he expected. The front door seemed to barely hang upon its hinges, and had several holes in it from pointed objects, as well as where people kicked it in. The inside of the place was not any better. Many of the floorboards were torn up, busted, and leaving the floor much like a gopher home, with all of the holes left in it. The walls were about the same as the floor and front door. Fist-sized holes and foot-sized holes could be seen littering the interior of the place. What once was a window could be seen on the floor of the apartment, along with a rock that had something wrapped around it. Raising an eyebrow, Enko walked over and removed the paper around the rock to see what it said. Demon scum, why don't you just die and leave this village in peace? It's bad enough you still live, but now you have become a shinobi of Konoha. What next? Raping our children, destroying our homes, and feasting on our bodies. Be gone from this place when we come back. Growling, Enko handed over the paper to the confused Hokage. It didn't take long for his feelings to mirror Enko's. How long has this been going on? Naruto has never said. I suppose though it isn't in his nature to. I am glad though he might be moving form here soon. I'm glad you are taking it so well, Hokage-sama, but if this kid is going to be under my care, I'd like to know about these things. I mean, look at this place. A rat wouldn't live here if it had a choice. I can see his bedroom from the front door, and that isn't even by a door, it's from the holes in the wall. And what the hell is that smell? I've had enough, let's get back to your office. Once this boy is officially mine, he is leaving this place for a better one, at least if I have anything to say about it. With a smile on his face, both vanished in clouds of smoke to his office. Hokage's office. Once the two returned to the office, he wasted little time in taking his seat once again. Enko walked over and sat beside Kurenai as she looked over her own stack of files on her new team. While reading, she could feel the eyes of many of the men on her. Some of the leering could be because of the fishnet clothing she wore, with little else on aside from white shin guards, an orange skirt that went to mid-thigh, and an open tan trench coat. She didn't care though, she often used this to her advantage over many people, friends and foes alike. Now then, I presume you all looked over the files for your teams, allow me to show you them in person now. With that, he revealed the small crystal ball he used to watch things in the village. The first thing the ball focused on was a pink-haired girl walking, or trying to, next to a raven-haired boy. Sasuke-kun, would you like to get to know each other better? That way we could be a better team, asked Sakura with a blush on her cheeks. No, just stay out of my way, along with the other dead weight I'll have to drag with me. All jonin in the room looked towards Kakashi as he let out a sigh at the behavior of his soon-to-be team. I wonder where my third member is though? Asked Kakashi to no one in particular. The next image the ball showed everyone was one of a black-haired boy with glasses, and a pale gray trench coat sitting under a tree, while a brown-haired boy in a similar parka could be seen chasing a small white puppy around said tree. Above them was a pale-haired blonde sitting on a branch in a purple top and purple skirt slit down the sides. She also had white bandages over the majority of her waist and upper thighs. Everyone could notice how annoyed she seemed to be with her current situation. Why do I have to be on this freaky team? Why couldn't I have been with Sasuke-kun or at least Naruto now that he looks so hot, whined the girl. Many in the room raised an eyebrow at that comment. From the photos, and past history with the young blonde, none ever mistook him for someone a girl would date. Grinning, the Hokage turned it to the next group of genin hopefuls. Slowly the image focused in on the group. There was an indigo-haired girl in a pale beige jacket, and pale eyes. She wore dark blue pants, which just passed her knees, and had pale lavender-colored eyes. Her eyes marked her as Hyuga Hinata, next in line to be head of the Hyuga clan. Next was a black-haired boy with his hair done in a top knot that spiked at the end, and he currently wore a content expression on his face. He was wearing a fishnet shirt, and a gray jacket, with green trim. Nara Shikamaru. Next to Shikamaru was a brown-haired boy, with his high tie raked around his forehead, and the clothes divided down the middle of his head separating his hair. Around his neck was a white scarf that wrapped around, and would probably touch the ground when he was standing. He also wore a green shirt left open down the middle to reveal a white shirt with writing on the front. His hands were wrapped in bandages up to the middle of his forearm. Aside from his size, there was one other special thing that marked him as a Kimichi Choji, that was the small red swirls that adorned his pudgy cheeks. Finally the image came to a boy in black pants bandaged tightly around the ankles, with a kunai holster on his right leg. He wore a tight black shirt that showed off his body, much to the surprise of many, and it had a red open spiral on the front of the shirt. As the image slowly went further up they could see the 6 whisker-like marks, 3 on each cheek, and the bright electric blue eyes. What he finally showed shocked many of the older jonin in the room. The boy's hair, which normally clumped together to form spikes of blonde hair, was not clumped, but more stringy, and still as wild. If it wasn't for the high tide of the boy it would be falling over his face. My, looks like he is already taking up after his father. I'll admit I'd never expected Naruto to change this much in a single night, but it seems to have been a good change, thought the Hokage as he looked around the room at many shocked faces. No, Arashi-sensei is dead, and he never had any children, did he? If he did I would have known, so why does the container for the Kyuubi look so much like him? Could it have been a side effect of the sealing? were the inner thoughts of Kakashi as his visible face paled, and eyes narrowed. He felt as if the thing was mocking him in some way, teasing him with a vision of his deceased sensei. He silently made a vow then to find out what was going on, and why the boy known as Uzumaki Naruto looked like his former teacher, Kazama Erasure. My, looks like the Yamanaka was right. He seems to be quite the looker now if I do say so myself. It's a shame he is so young though, muttered Anko, earning a few glares, and some laughs from those gathered. The group looked like they were on top of the academy, and just laying there, looking into the sky, watching the clouds and the day go by. Occasionally the girl known by all as Hyuga Hinata would look over towards Naruto, and smile. Shikamaru was doing his own fair share of glances, hardly believing that the one next to him could possibly be the loud-mouthed blonde from days earlier. The Hokage continued to show the different genin groups, letting each jonin see their teams, and learn a little about how they act by watching them. Finally the hour break promised to the group had passed, and each started to make their way to pick up their teams. Out of the many leaving the room, one stayed behind for a few short minutes, hoping to get a few questions answered. Yes, Anko? I presume you have a question about your team. Yeah, why is there a section in Naruto's folder missing? The section is the one dealing with his known jutsus, and his birth certificate. Is there something I should know about, or did it just fall out somewhere? Asked a suspicious Anko. Well, I can say it didn't vanish, but for the rest, you will know when you meet Naruto, and he begins to trust you. The information in those sections is his to tell, and no one else. I can promise, though, some of it will be a surprise to you, replied the wise old man with a mischievous smile on his face. Sighing at the lack of answers, she turned to make her way to the academy for her first group of victims. Looking over the files, she knew it would be a hard time, but she still couldn't help but like them. They each seemed to have an untapped potential waiting to be revealed. Konoha Academy. Everyone gathered back into the classroom, each group sitting with those that now formed their new teams. Many of those gathered seemed content, or happy with the current arrangements, while others seemed to be disgusted with them. A few scant minutes after all were gathered in the room, Iruka could be seen walking in, with a number of people waiting outside of the room. Once in and sure everyone was accounted for, he started calling out the names of the teams, and their number. Once he did that, he called for the Jonin sensei to come in from the door. After that the group would walk out to wherever they would gather to do whatever the Jonin wanted for the first official group meeting. He slowly checked off names till he came to Team 7. Akimichi Choji, Haruno Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke. Your Jonin sensei is Hatake Kakashi. Please come in, Kakashi-san, spoke Iruka. He waited several seconds, and still no one came into the room. Sighing, Iruka walked to the door and opened it. Poking his head out, he asked the gathered Jonin, let me guess, Kakashi is late again, right? Receiving nods and confirmation, he sighed and turned back in. Okay, you three take a seat in the back of the room. Your sensei will be here shortly, I hope. The last part was muttered, so that no one could hear it. Shaking his head, he continued with the names. Team 8, Aburaim Shino, Inazuka Kiba, and Yamanaka Ino, meet your sensei, Yohi Kurinai. With that the door opened to let the raven-haired Jonin in. Please, follow me to Training Ground 8. With that she turned and left the room with the three young genin in her footsteps. Now Team 10, Hyuga Hinata, Nara Shikamaru, and Uzumaki Naruto, meet your sensei, Mitarashi Anko. With those words the door opened to reveal Anko, who walked to the center of the room, and looked at her group. Giving a twisted smile that sent shivers down their backs, she called out to them. Ichiwai, I'm Mitarashi Anko, and I'm going to be your sensei from this day forward. Follow me to the dango shop, she shouted while cheerfully pumping her arm up and down in the air. She's just like Naruto, thought Sakura. Wow, she is really crazy, be careful, Shikamaru, was running through Choji's mind. Humph, another annoying person, was all Sasuke thought at her antics. Why did I get such a crazy and troublesome woman for my sensei? Man, that smile of hers was creepy. I'd better watch out though, she does dress in some interesting clothes and oh, I am not a pervert, mentally shouted Naruto as he looked Anko over. Oh, she seems so carefree, and almost just like Naruto-kun. I hope I can be strong, and not let him and her down. For my father, and Naruto-kun, I must be strong, were Hinata's thought as she followed Anko from the room. The group followed the seemingly crazy Kunoichi down the streets of Konoha as she hummed a tune and led them to a dango shop. Once in, she took them to a booth in the back of the shop, and sat down, after motioning for them to do the same. Shortly after they sat down, a waitress walked over with a tray filled with dango already, and set them down in front of the group. After setting down the dumplings, she took her leave. Now, why don't you guys tell me something about yourselves? Maybe something like your dreams, hobbies, likes, dislikes, and skills. I'll start things off for you. You know my name already. I love dango, all kinds of dumplings, and sweet bean soup. I hate spicy food. My hobbies are training in the forest of death, playing with kunai, sharpening kunai, and a few other things. My skills, well, I can't tell you yet. Maybe after a few missions I'll let you know, she winked at the group there. My dreams, she paused as she moved a hand to hold the part of her neck where it meets her shoulders. My dream is to kill a certain person who hurt me. Each of them could feel the room drop several degrees. Now, you lazy bastard, it is your turn. Don't be lazy about this either, because if you do, I might have to talk with your mom. It's been a while since me and her had a girls' night out. After grumbling about bossy women, and a mild panic attack from the mentioning of his mom, he started to talk. You know my name already. I like puzzles and strategy games. My favorite food would have to be mackerel and kelp. I hate boiled eggs. My hobbies are napping, cloud watching, and playing Go and shogi. I hate people who can't see a person for who they truly are. My dream is to marry someone who is not ugly or beautiful. Have 2 children, first a girl, then a boy. Retire after my daughter is married, and me son has a job, and spend the rest of me life playing shogi, and to die before my wife and children. My skills are mostly with my family jutsus, and a few basic academy level ones. My taijutsu is decent, but nothing compared to some others in the class. Genjutsu I can break, but don't really care to learn, the same with ninjutsu outside of my families. Okay, so you quiet girl, your turn, and no stuttering or twiddling of fingers. We won't leave here until you can do this without doing those 2 things. Also be sure to look up at us, the same thing applies to that. Gulping, Hinata started to speak, only to stop, and take a deep breath to try to calm herself and her nerves. It didn't help that Naruto was sitting right next to her, trapping her in the booth's corner. She looked over to him, and noticed him nodding his head in encouragement to her. Smiling, she once again took a steadying breath before she started. My name is Hyuga Hinata. I like people who are nice to me, and to others, even when those people are rude to them. I dislike those who judge people without knowing them, and ridicule others. My favorite food is cinnamon rolls and bean jam. My hobbies are flower pressing, training, and making medicinal salves. My dream is to become a great medic nin, and make my clan proud when I become the head of it. I have some skill in the Juken, the taijutsu style of my clan. I'm not as good as others, but I know I can get better. She managed to finish without stuttering or any of her other nervous and shy habits. She smiled to herself as she realized just how easy it was to do that. Thank you, Anko-sensei. Great, we could use a medic on the team, more so with the knucklehead sitting next to you. This earned her a glare from Naruto, even though he was smiling while doing it. Now you, Yandere wannabe, finish things up. Hearing her say that caused Naruto to tense slightly as he heard someone compare him to his father. Shaking it off as just a coincidence, he ran a hand through his hair. Next to him, Hinata also tensed slightly at the comparison. She looked over Naruto once again, and she too couldn't help but notice how similar he looked to the pictures of the yandere in their books, and the framed pictures in the library. His moment of nervousness did not go unnoticed by Anko and Shikamaru though. Anko thought it might have had something to do with the sealing of Kyuubi. I mean, who couldn't hate a person who sealed the demon in you? Shikamaru just went into his thinking mode as he noticed the similarities between Naruto and the yandere. Take away the whisker marks, and he could probably pass as a young yandere. But there was never anything in our books that stated he had a family, or was ever married, thought out Shikamaru. Well, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. He trailed off here as he scratched his chin while thinking. Well, I like ramen, though it is almost the only kind of food I have a chance to eat. Roasted fish is good too. I also like my friends, like Hinata-chan, who do not judge others just from what they see on the outside. I hate the 3 minutes it takes to wait for ramen to cook, and arrogant self-centered bastards like Sasuke. Some of my hobbies are playing pranks, and using that as training, swimming in the river and lake, training, and gardening. He whispered out the last part, a little ashamed of what people might think. My dream, well, I think my dream is to become the greatest Hokage in history, and impress my family again. He whispered the last part of his speech, and looked slightly downcast. My skills, I have my Oiroku no Jutsu, Henge, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Taiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Bunshin Daibakuha, and Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. I also have another ability I'm working on, but I can't say what it is yet. Anko let out a small whistle at the list of the jutsus he could do. Sure, some of them were low, but the Kage Bunshin related jutsus was nothing to laugh at. She couldn't help but wonder though what his unmentioned one was. Shikamaru just looked at Naruto in amazement. He would have never thought that the boy across from him could have such high-level jutsus, and still fail the academy 3 times. Great, so we have a lazy bum, a shy heiress, and someone who wants to be the yandere. Again another flinch by Naruto followed this. Normally, I give you guys some kind of test to see if you are ready to become a genin team. But from what I saw earlier while at the Hokage's office, you guys get along pretty well, and should have no problem with teamwork. There are a few things we need to work on though, which we will start on tomorrow when I tell you your training schedule and mission schedule. We will meet here every day at 0900. Showing up late earns you laps around Konoha. The first time is 10 laps. Every time after that you gain 10 more. Tomorrow we will do our first mission, and then break for training. Until then you are dismissed, except for you Naruto. I want to talk with you. With that Shikamaru quickly left, one of the few times he hurried to do something, while Naruto moved out of the booth to allow Hinata to leave. After a few parting words to his two friends, Naruto sat back down opposite of Anko. Okay kid, who are you, and what did you do with the normal trickster who performed some hilarious pranks? Asked Anko as her eyes sparkled dangerously. Gulping at the intent hidden in her eyes, he started to answer. Like I said, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. Sure, and since when did you have a fan club watching you? I mean, it's hard to notice all the girls ogling you right now from outside this place. Groaning, he hung his head and set it down on the table as he started to speak. This is just the real me sensei. No one really paid attention to me till I forgot to do laundry, and had to dig up some old clothes. Besides, I'm thinking about burning those ugly orange jumpsuits, and doing some shopping, but that might be hard since no shop lets me in for the obvious reasons, which I'm sure you know. Yeah brat, that is why when you do go shopping, I'm going with you. Just let them try to throw you out with me there. She paused as she saw Naruto blushing and with a mortified look on his face. Or you could take your little girlfriend with you, I'm sure she could pick out some great clothes for you. Naruto raised his head to look up at his sensei, with a confused look plastered upon it. Girlfriend, I don't have one. Heck, the only girl that is my friend seems to be Hinata-chan. He paused as he thought of that. Now that you mention it though, I might ask her to come along. I can trust her opinion on things since she is really honest. He is really that dense? Okay fine, and I'm glad you are getting rid of those orange clothes. If you didn't, I'd burn them myself. Now get lost, you are going to need all the sleep you can get for tomorrow's torture session. As Naruto got up to leave, he glanced back at her. Seeing this, she flashed a smile that seemed too sweet and innocent on her face. Naruto couldn't help but shudder, and dread what was coming up in the next few days for him, and the other members of the team. Shigeki no Fusuto Dangon. Naruto was just about to leave the small dango shop until he remembered something else his sensei had said to him. Sure, and since when did you have a fan club watching you? I mean, it's hard to notice all the girls ogling you right now from outside this place. That's right, all of those crazy girls are outside waiting for me. How in the world am I supposed to slip past all of them? Sighing in frustration, Naruto stopped and leaned against the small bar of the shop to ponder his predicament. Leaning against the bar, with his hand on his chin, earned him a number of looks from the other occupants of the small shop, and more than one double take for who he looked like. Some of the occupants were wondering what the boy was mumbling to himself about, and why he was swearing revenge on the creatures known as fangirls. The final thing that had people shying away from him was the fact that he was muttering about never forgetting to do laundry again, and make his crazy psycho sensei go shopping with him. Sighing to himself once again, he decided upon a course of action, make a break for it through an army of Kage Bunshins. Not what he really wanted to do since it would eat up a lot of chakra, but it seemed like the only viable and safe way to get out with his clothes intact. Standing up straight, he brought his hands, and fixed his fingers into a cross-like seal, and focused a large amount of chakra into it. While solemnly saying, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he generated a small squad of Bunshins, and moved himself into the crowd of copies. With a defiant war cry from each of the newly formed blondes, they charged out of the shop and into a mass of girls, each reaching to a blonde, and grabbing, hoping to get something from him to commemorate the occasion. So caught up in the mad dash were the girls, that they never noticed another Anko leaving the small shop, and take to the rooftops, then run from the area at full speed, with a very Naruto-like grin on her face. Once Anko was several blocks away from the bar, she raised her fingers up, into the boar sign, and simple said Kai, release. She was then obscured from sight by a large cloud of billowing white smoke. Several seconds later a gentle wind came through, and whisked the smoke away, revealing a grinning blonde-haired boy, with 3 whisker-like scars on each cheek. Back at the small shop, the large group of Narutos suddenly vanished with a popping sound, and only leaving clouds of smoke, and several angry women. And oh, I wanted the mini yandame! Shouted several of the depressed women, none of them knowing just who they had been chasing. Currently said blonde was busy walking towards his apartment, and trying to keep to the back alleys in order to hide from the rabid women who have started to hunt him down. He was nearly to his block when he stopped in the alleyway, and looked up towards the sky. The clouds are nice today, maybe I won't go home just yet. With that said, he turned and started off towards the eastern forest surrounding Konoha, and the training grounds. After speeding his way across the village, he finally made it to the training ground, and went deeper into the forest after crossing a small red bridge. He continued until he came to a clearing with 3 large stumps, and a large obsidian stone monument. On this obsidian monument was the names of the shinobi who died while serving their village and country, and held painful memories for many active shinobi and civilians. Once Naruto made it to the center of the clearing by the stone, he paused for a few moments, then turned back towards the direction he came from. "I know you are there, so come on out, whoever you are," called out Naruto to the trees surrounding him. Several minutes went by with Naruto never taking his eyes away from one tree that stood at the pathway to the clearing. Finally, after over 10 minutes, the branches of the tree started to move, and parted to make way for a silver-haired Cyclopes. The silver-haired figure gracefully jumped down from the tree, and landed on the opposite side of the clearing from Naruto. Neither figure took their eyes off of the other, each waiting for the other person to make the first move. To them it was a delicate balance in what felt like a life-or-death struggle. Whoever made the first move could be leaving themselves open to a death blow from the person across from them. Blue and black eyes meet each other, and neither one was giving the other a glimpse to what they were thinking. Naruto was the first to break the silence by letting out an exasperated sigh as he walked towards one of the large stumps in the clearing. "You obviously can't be an assassin sent to kill me because of the QB. If you were, you would have made your move sooner, or never come out in the first place. You look like a jonin, perhaps former Anbu, judging by the way you walk lightly and suppress your chakra. So tell me, why have you been following me?" Kakashi was shocked to hear what the container had to say. Why would he be an assassin? Did this mean the boy had to deal with assassins before? How come it was never reported to the ANBU to investigate? I have to admit though, this kid is good, better than his records show. But is it his skills, or is it the QB's doing? Not bad, kid, you are better than your academy records say. I'm surprised though. If you were always this good, why not put the effort into your academy work more? You could have been higher up in the rankings, perhaps even Rookie of the Year, spoke Kakashi as he leaned against a tree nearby. He'd admit that the boy did not look hostile right now, but he did not want to take any chances. After a snort, and kicking a rock by his foot, Naruto turned to look the man in the eye once again with a scowl on his face. Tell me something, if you were hated by the people of the village, and didn't know why, would you want them to know you were smarter than you look? Perhaps you are right, but would that not give you the attention you always wanted? It might also make other students, instructors, and villagers believe you could become Hokage someday like you always yell about, was the even reply from the copy nin as he pulled out his little orange book from his side pouch. The twitching of Naruto's eye did not go unnoticed by the man, who smiled under his mask. Yeah, it could have, but again, how or why would I do that if I'm being mistreated by the teachers at the academy, fighting for my life, or wondering if I will have a home to go back to after school? I had more important things to worry about besides showing off. The title of Rookie of the Year is nothing but a name. The truly talented people hide their skills and work the system to their advantage, scoffed Naruto. Oh, so I suppose failing the graduation exam 3 times was your way of working the system? I have to say, not a very smart thing to do. If it wasn't for the incident with Mizuki, you might not have graduated at all this time. This time Naruto's eyes flashed open, placing Kakashi in their piercing gaze. Unconsciously, Naruto started to flex his right hand, opening and closing the appendage as if he was getting ready for a battle. This action didn't go unnoticed by Kakashi, as he started to slowly place himself on guard in case the boy was crazy enough to attack him. Gritting his teeth, and with a great deal of malice and hate in his voice, Naruto spoke up. I would have graduated this year if it wasn't for a medical problem I was having at the time of the exam. I couldn't focus my chakra properly because of that. That was the only reason I didn't pass it, roared Naruto. If you say so. But it seems like I might have overestimated you. I will commend you on learning the Kage Bunshin-related jutsus, but they honestly do not take much work to do. They are not about finesse or control, just pure power, so they are nothing to brag about too much. Naruto started to release a low growl from his mouth. It was then he started to feel a familiar tingling sensation in his right arm. This time there was no pain, just what felt like a surge of power went washing over his right arm, and down to the tips of his fingers. Slowly a strange aura started to form around Naruto as a kaleidoscope of colors started to dance around the clearing. Kakashi quickly jumped up from his leaning post and snatched a kunai from his holster, as he readied himself for whatever attack Naruto was about to unleash. He was surprised to see large gouts of earth and parts of the surrounding forest vanish in the same light that was dancing around Naruto's right side. Seeing this, he wasted little time in uncovering his left eye and revealing the Sharingan to the young man. Naruto's arm raised into the air facing towards Kakashi as it split into 3 sections, and then reformed with red, silver, and gold armor around it. Slowly 3 red fins started to form on Naruto's back from the same light. After this was done, the light started to fade away, leaving Naruto with his arm encased in the strangest armor Kakashi had ever seen. Kakashi blinked his eyes carefully, not believing what he had just witnessed. The boy took the chakra from the surrounding areas, plants, rocks, and the earth, and reshaped it into something entirely different than what it came from. Seeing the shocked expression on the man's face, Naruto could help but grin. How do you like it? Pretty cool, isn't it? This is why I failed the test this year, not because of my skill. I had something waking up inside of me, and this was it, my bloodline limit. You are one of the first to see it besides Gigi, Irika-sensei, Hinata-chan, and Mizuki. I'll admit I don't know how it works right now, nor do I have a name for it. But I do know something that I didn't know earlier, and that is how to activate it. Anger. Kakashi continued looking at the boy and his new arm, trying to gauge what it could do, and what dangers it might present to him. I can't tell how heavy it is, or how it might limit his mobility and agility. From the looks of it though, it can't be that heavy. Is it just armor though, or is it a weapon? I can't wait to find out. If he even makes a move to attack, I will end this quickly. I don't want to fight you here, and destroy the memorial stone, but if you want to fight me, then I will. I'll ask you one more time, why were you following me, and what do you want? If you came here just to pick a fight with me, then fight. If you came here to insult me, fine, but don't expect me not to get some form of payback down the road, you one-eyed bastard. Delivered Naruto in an even, emotionless voice, one that caused a slight shiver to run down Kakashi's spine, once again reminding him of his sensei. Very well then, I did not come for a fight, but merely to ask you a question. And your name is what again? Sorry, but unless I know who I am talking to, I will not answer any of your questions. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you my name, would it? My name is Hatake Kakashi, and my question is simple. Do you know your family, such as who your father and mother were? Asked Kakashi finally. It was only after he finished that he realized how terrible the wording was, and then he started to feel an immense amount of killing intent being focused on him. He could feel a cold sweat starting to build up on the back of his neck and run down his spine. Why the hell does it matter to you? If my family meant anything to you or this village, I would never have been treated like I was. As far as I'm concerned, you are just trash like the others who attacked me or insulted me. What I know of my family and what I don't know are none of your concerns. Kakashi started to sweat more. Never before had he thought a child could possess such anger towards another living being. Is this what the village has done to him? Have they truly been that cruel to the boy? If you truly cared, and wanted to know, perhaps you would have asked me earlier in my life, and maybe helped me. But the fact that your face just blends in with all the other hate-filled faces just shows you did nothing. Yeah, now that I know your name, I remember you all too well. To be more exact, I remember nothing about you, except the cold eyes, the ones the villagers give me. I wouldn't have thought that the star pupil of mine. Naruto paused as he was about to let slip the news of his father to this man, and quickly fixed the problem, of my hero the yondaime, would be the type of person to not listen to the final wish of his dying teacher. After all, in the ninja world, those who don't follow the rules are considered trash, but those who don't protect their comrades are lower than trash. Isn't that right, Hatake-san? The last sentence was nearly growled out by Naruto as he started to turn and walk away from the shocked silver-haired man. Kakashi could only watch as the boy walked away, and as he did, the armor on Naruto's arm started to disintegrate into nothing once again. Where did he hear that? I've only said that to a few people, and I know none of them talked to him, so how does he know what Obito said to me? Damn this boy, each time I see him more questions pop up, but this time I am going to get an answer from him. Kakashi snapped out of his daze and was about to go after Naruto when he suddenly heard an all too familiar voice behind him shout out. Sanaijushu, Hidden Shadow Snake Hand. Seconds after the shout, he could feel the scaly caress of multiple snakes wrapping around his body, preventing his arms and legs from moving, and causing him to fall to the group. Kakashi, I'd like to ask you to leave my students alone. If he doesn't want to talk to you, then honor that, and don't bother him again unless it is important business. Understood, Kakashi? Finished Anko with a dangerous glint in her eyes. Kakashi only grunted in acknowledgement as he continued to try to wiggle out of his predicament, only to have the snakes vanish in clouds of smoke. Now why were you stalking my student? Don't you have your own to torture? She paused for a second, and then an incredulous look came to her face. Oh Kami, please, don't tell me you are into boys. This only caused the man to sputter as he was about to answer until she screamed that out at him. No. I just wanted to ask a few questions, which I'm sure you heard. He paused as he looked at the woman before he continued with a mischievous tone coming to his voice. My dear Anko, don't tell me you are into younger men now? Abusing the teacher-student relationship, I am disappointed in you, Anko. He quickly started to dodge a string of kunai that were aimed at the main difference between males and females by rolling along the ground until he was safely behind one of the training posts. I was just joking with you, Anko. No need to take it so seriously, shouted Kakashi as he hoped to save some dignity from his exploits today. Seriously now, Anko, what were you doing following him around? I know he is your first student, but what made you want to observe him? Asked Kakashi while still hidden behind the log. Simple, I wanted to see the kid's day-to-day life. I checked his apartment earlier, and it wasn't even worthy of the rats that lived there. But after talking with them earlier, I wanted to see how he reacted to everyone else around him. I'm surprised the kid could stand the glares and the animosity directed at him from the little time I've been watching him. I've also learned something else, something that makes me toss out majority of his record from the academy. Naruto is perhaps the best ninja of this village. He has been able to hide his true feelings and self behind a disguise to make people underestimate him, just like you did. His skill level is unknown to me as of now, and so at that strange thing he did to you just now. Kakashi slowly nodded his head, realizing just how badly people may have underestimated the blonde-hair, former idiotic boy. What makes you think there is more to him though, Anko? Until now has never shown that kind of skill, maybe it's just a fluke? Asked Kakashi haphazardly. Anko could only shake her head in frustration at the silver-haired man. For a genius, you sure are blind, Kakashi. But to answer your question, it comes from something he said to me after our team meeting. And what did he just say to earn the interest of the resident sadist queen of Konoha? Queered Kakashi again as he dodged more kunai and shuriken. Simple, he said, this is just the real me sensei. He also mentioned how he used his pranks as training methods during this time, and while at the academy, which you might have heard if you show up on time for once. When I heard him say that, and see the way he was acting, I knew something was different. I think I know what caused this change too, and I'm glad it happened as it will make the team function with ease. Finished Anko as he started to gather kunai and shuriken from around the logs and clearing. The entire time Anko spent picking up her very sharp and deadly pointed instrument, Kakashi was sure to stay hidden behind something. So you are saying he pulled the wool over our eyes, over the eyes of everyone in the village? Yes and no, Kakashi. Yes, because he did trick us into thinking that he was just a buffoon, and a no-talent hack, that is everyone but perhaps 3 people. Yamano Irika, Hyuga Hinata, and Sandame-sama seemed to have known the boy was hiding something, but were never sure what. Each of them also believed in his skills from what I've gathered, and hardly ever questioned him, except for Irika when he was playing pranks on people. Just think about it, Kakashi, and look back on what you have seen of the boy, and then try to view it from a new perspective. You might be surprised at some of the things you see. Besides, I like this new him, and knowing his skill at misdirection and subterfuge only makes me more certain of my agreement for taking this team. I think they will be one of the best teams at what I plan to have them specialize in. She finished this off with a malicious grin as she turned away from Kakashi and started to walk the same path Naruto left on. And what might that be, Anko-chan? Asked Kakashi as he purposely added the suffix to get under the skin of the raven-haired woman once again, despite being the target of numerous projectiles earlier. Grinding her teeth together, she paused mid-step and turned towards the jonin. With a voice that promised him immense pain should he do the same thing again, she responded while grinning impishly at him. Simple, something that this village hasn't seen in some time. Team 10 will become the future assassination and sabotage experts under my training. With those words she smiled sweetly, and started to hum a cheery tune as she walked away from the man. Nara House. Shikamaru was hardly ever thankful to be home, mostly because of his mother, Yoshino, but today was one of the few times he was glad to be home. One of the reasons was because of his new sensei, Mitarashi Anko, who seemed to be scarier than his own mother. She also confirmed a view Shikamaru has always had on women: they are all troublesome. He could hardly believe how he had managed to get someone who seemed like a female Naruto. Hyperactive, bossy, and seemed to have a glint in her eyes that meant trouble for her students. The thought of her made him shiver. He could hardly believe his luck. He would have rather been stuck with Ino than with this woman. At least with Ino he knew how to shut her up, which was just mentioning Sasuke. With this one, he had no idea what would work. Then there was the other thing that was bothering him, Uzumaki Naruto. Something was different about him, something more than what he had told Kiba earlier that day. The blonde hardly seemed like himself today, or the version he had come accustomed to in the years he knew him. He no longer looked the loud-mouthed, hyperactive, and most of all, talentless dead last of their class. Naruto somehow transformed overnight, and became a new person. He was more subdued, and less like the idiot everyone thought him to be. The fact that the blonde could boast he knew 3A rank ninjutsu, and AB rank ninjutsu, all of which he never showed any knowledge of before, made Shikamaru wonder just who Uzumaki Naruto was. Sighing, he slowly made his way into his home, praying that his mother was out shopping. But steeping in, he could tell his bad luck was still with him. As he stepped into his small home, he could smell food being cooked in the kitchen by his mother, and hear her humming happily to herself while she went about doing it. Mentally praying he could escape to his room without notice, he tried to quietly shut the door without her noticing. Once again his bad luck struck as he heard his father's voice calling to him from the small study. "Hey Shika, come on in here and tell me about your team and sensei. I heard through the grapevine that you were placed with Ino and Choji. Sounds like another Ino Shikacho group in the making," spoke his father with a pleased tone to his voice. If only he knew the truth though. "Oh Shika, you're home. Just in time for your special dinner tonight in honor of officially becoming a ninja. I even invited your team over for dinner. I thought it would be nice for us all to be together tonight and celebrate," came his mother's voice as she walked into the room with a bowl as she stirred the contents. Sighing, he turned to both of his parents from the stairs up to his room. "It's too much trouble to sit down and talk about this. I'm going to take a nap," he droned as he started up to his room, only to freeze at the sound of his mother's voice. "Nara Shikamaru, you get down here right now and tell us about your day, or else you will be stuck helping me in the kitchen the rest of the week," yelled out his mother, happiness and all the cheer forgotten. She was now in what Shikamaru liked to call slave driver mode, and when she was like this, not even he would act normal. "Fine, but I know you won't like what I have to say," answered the younger Nara as he walked into the study with his father. "Well, I'll be the judge of that, my boy. Now let's hear about your team and sensei." "Well, first you were wrong about Choji, Ino and I being on the same team. Ino was placed on Team 8 with Inuzuka Kiba, and Abirame Shino, under Yuhi Kurinai. Choji was placed on Team 7 with Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura under Hatake Kakashi," started Shikamaru as he flopped down into a chair opposite of his mom and dad. "Well, that is a surprise, though Ino's group does complement each other in ways. Being under Konoha's premier genjutsu master might even help Ino along some. They do already act a lot like each other." As he finished the last sentence, he received a smack to the back of his head by his wife. "Dang, sorry, but it's the truth. Choji is lucky though, son. He has a great teacher, albeit I am a little worried about how he will progress under Kakashi. The only reason he even bothers taking a team is because the council makes him, but the earlier ones were just to prepare him for the sole Uchiha loyal to Konoha. So he may be a little narrow-sighted when it comes to teaching the other members of his team. Yes, I wonder if Chosen knew about this. I wonder though, why did Hokage-sama and Yumino-san change the teams up? They wouldn't do something like that without a good reason, right honey?" Chipped in his mother as she sat on the arm of his father's chair, the contents of the bowl forgotten. "Well, tell us about your team, Shika. From what I remember the other day, only one other child in your class graduated, Hyuga Hinata." "That's what I thought too, at least until this morning. But it seems somehow one other graduated since yesterday, though I don't know how he did it." Shikaku was surprised at this, because at the mention of the event his mind flashed back to the events of the previous night. As he looked over to his wife, he could see the same thoughts flowing across her face. "Well, don't keep us waiting, son, go on and tell us. No matter what, it should be an honor to be placed on the same team as the Hyuga heiress, and I'm sure you have one of the best senseis out there. Hayashi would want the best for his daughter, I would think." I don't know about our sensei being the best out there. I was placed on Team 10 with Hyuga Hinata, and well, Uzumaki Naruto." He stopped to wait for the explosion he was sure to get. His father didn't disappoint him either. "What, how, no, why did they let him graduate? He stole the forbidden scroll of seals, for crying out loud. He should be arrested and sent to Ibiki." It was after his second sentence, and a hard slap on the back of his head from his wife, did he realize what he had just said. He turned back to his son to see his reaction to what he had just let slip out. That's what all that commotion about last night. There were so many people running around and yelling it was hard to get back to sleep, and that explosion not far from our house didn't help matters any. Coming out of his thoughts, and seeing his parents looking at him intently, he decided to speak up, lest they think something was wrong. "I was wondering what all those racket last night, and how Naruto knew 4 high was ranking ninjutsu. He must have learned them from the scroll last night or something, but I still don't know why or how he graduated." "Listen, Shika, you can't tell anyone about what I just said. I wasn't even supposed to talk about it, but hearing that he is now a genin, I can't help but feel angry. I just don't think he deserves that honor." His mother cast what looked like a disapproving look at her husband, then turned to look back towards Shikamaru with what looked like disappointment at her husband in her eyes. "Shika-kun, why don't you continue? You never told us who your sensei was after all," asked his mother, trying to change the subject and cheer things up a little. "Gah, I swear dad, this lady is worse than mom." He paused at the glare his mother sent him. "She is hyper just like Naruto used to be, and scares me to death with this look in her eye." He paused again as he saw what looked to be a pleased smile on his mother's face, and one of horror on his father's. "Really, dear, I wonder if I know her or anything. She sounds just like the type of person who could get you moving when I'm not around," replied his mother with an all too sweet voice. His father only snorted at what his mother said, and shook his head, as he imagined what his son might be going through. "Well, her name is Mitarashi Enko, and like I said, she seems really crazy. I mean, she said she loves training in the forest of death, and her dream is to kill some guy, though she never said who." He watched as what seemed like sadness and understanding passed across his parents' faces, adding to his growing confusion concerning his new team. "Well, don't worry about that, Shika, but I'm sure you will have your hands full with her. She might just be the only woman past your mother that I fear, and that's saying a lot. Now tell me, what kind of team you are supposed to be?" asked his father once again, slightly ashamed of what he just admitted to his son. Shikamaru opened his mouth to speak, but closed it back up. The reason why was simple: he had never asked, nor was he told what they were supposed to be. I have no idea, she never said anything to us, and I honestly didn't think that our team would have a specific purpose. I mean, with Naruto and Hinata, we seem to be a group just thrown together. I can't really see how any of our skills mesh together, except for Hinata's and my own. His father just sat there with his hand cupping his chin as he thought about what he knew of the 4 people being spoken of. Well, Enko is a Tokubetsu Jonin, or Special Jonin. I think her area of expertise is assassinations and sabotage. She could be training you to take up that field, which our family can excel in, as could the Hyugas. Though I'm not sure about him and how he fits into this picture. Once again Shikaku was greeted with a rather hard slap to the back of his head, this time with a rolling pin from his wife. Enko-chan is a very nice person, but it takes her a while to warm up to people. She was hurt in the past by someone very close to her, and resents that person to this day. So you be on your best behavior, Shika, because if I hear about any trouble from you, I'll make you regret it. Now go wash up for dinner, your friends will be here soon. Finished his mother in a motherly tone, one that was the complete opposite of her earlier threat. He was about to head up the stairs once again when his father's voice called him back into the room. What did you mean Enko is as hyper as Naruto used to be, son? Asked a puzzled Shikaku. All he knew of the boy was his antics, and that he was the vessel for the Kyuubi. He had heard and seen some of the boy's pranks, and sadly fallen to the Oiroku no Jutsu, which he never told his wife about. Well, he isn't hyper anymore. He isn't bouncing around off the walls, challenging Sasuke to fights, or drooling after Sakura. He has quieted down some, and seems to be talking more with Hinata, when before a day ago those two hardly ever talked. Him and Hinata even sat down and watched clouds with me and Choji this afternoon, after the teams were announced. His father could only raise a brow at the changes listed in the boy, while his mother seemed to be smiling. She almost seemed happy about the changes for some reason. Anything else, Shikaku-in? Asked his mother. Well, he had new clothes on, which he said was because he didn't do his laundry. It also seems that under all those baggy clothes he is a very different person, which he contributed to his pranks, saying they were training exercises or something else troublesome. Is that all? The boy was probably just trying to brag, and I doubt he looked that great in dirty clothes. Responded his father. That's not all, Dad. The clothes weren't his normal orange jumpsuit or anything, but a black shirt and pants. With his high tie it wrapped around his forehead, and with bed hair, he looked almost exactly like how I would imagine a young yandere. Answered the young Nara as he turned to walk away, never seeing the shocked looks on their faces. The elder Naras were still in shock at what their son had said, both hardly believing the news. Shikaku, however, was slightly angry. After checking to make sure Shikamaru was up in his room, he voiced his opinion to his wife, though reluctantly. That bastard demon is mocking us now, trying to make us see him as the yandere. He should have been killed the day he was born to save us all the trouble, muttered the older man. Shikaku, don't let me ever hear you say such a thing again. He was only, and is still only, an innocent child who was forced to take this burden. Would you still feel the same if our son had to bear that burden? I doubt you would, and I doubt you would treat any other child that way if they had family there to support them. Yelled his wife as he started to swing her rolling pin at his head, catching him every so often. And while I'm at it, honey, why don't you use that brain that you and Shika are so proud of? Would the yandere just randomly pick a child from Konoha to do this? I would think our beloved leader was smarter than that, and had more respect for our village. With those final words she huffed away back to the kitchen, and left a very stunned husband, who could not believe what his wife had just said. Konoha. Naruto was almost to his house when he heard the telltale signs of a box scrapping against the rocky streets of Konoha. Giving himself a small smile, he continued walking on while whistling, and listening to the box behind him. After several minutes, and finding his way to an isolated street, he rounded on the box, and pointed an accusing finger at it. Come on out, Konohamaru. That disguise is a joke. No rocks are perfectly square, nor do they have eyes holes. Shouted Naruto at the small box, and smiled as he remembered first meeting the young boy. Flashback. Naruto had just been caught again after one of his pranks, this one involving him and several cases of academy toilet paper and the Hyuga manor. He didn't come away without a few tenketsu, chakra pressure points, closed, but he felt it was more than worth it after the beating given to him days earlier by 2 Hyuga branch members. To see the manor wrapped up in toilet paper, and see it hanging from the trees brought a smile to his face. Now, though, he was starting to regret it as he was brought in front of the Hokage's doors, and was awaiting his punishment for the act. Not even 5 minutes of waiting, and he was finally called in, and sat in front of the Hokage's desk. Now, Naruto, why would you do such a thing, as wrap the Hyuga compound in toilet paper? Surely you know who they are, correct? asked the aging man to the 10-year-old blonde in front of him. Yeah, but they started at Gigi, shouted the blonde. Just how did they do that, Naruto? If they did something to you, you know all you had to do was tell me, and I would take care of the situation, spoke the Hokage sympathetically to his young charge. Yeah, sure you would. No one ever believes a thing I say, and I doubt anyone would think the almighty Hyugas would do anything like beat an orphan for no reason, whispered the young boy as his face darkened. Besides, the only nice one of them all is Hinata. She isn't as stuck up as the rest of her family, at least not in school or anything, added Naruto with a furious nodding of his head, agreeing with himself. Sighing, Sarutobi knew it had to have been something like this, and sadly Naruto was probably correct in his assumption. He could verbally reprimand them, but anything past that would not be allowed, or frowned upon by the council. It was times like this that he wished he had performed the duties of the Yondaime 10 years earlier, and perhaps then Naruto would have had a better life. Naruto, they may have deserved what you did, but you. Sarutobi was cut off as a side door to his office flew open, and a small boy wearing a long blue scarf and brown hair came charging in. I'll be Hokage now, shouted the youth as he charged forward about to throw a shuriken at the Sandaime. Sarutobi could only sigh and rub his temples as his grandson once again tried to perform a sneak attack. What is this, the 15th one today? Sigh, I suppose it is that time of day though. I suppose dealing with Naruto made me forget about Konohamaru. While he was in his thoughts, his grandson managed to trip over his own feet, and was sent crashing down onto the floor. This caused Naruto to start laughing at the young Sarutobi, and only enraged Konohamaru. It was also at this time that the Tokubetsu Jonin who was supposed to be watching him came running up. Honorable grandson, you must not run off like that. If you ever wish to become the Hokage you must do as I say, shouted the man dressed in black, with his high tie wrapped around his forehead, and the clothes covering his hair. He also had on dark round glasses, which seemed to be too large for his face, as he had to constantly push them back up onto the bridge of his nose. Oh no, the demon child is here now. I mustn't let Konohamaru mingle with the likes of him. Hey you were the one who tripped me, weren't you? Shouted the brown-haired boy as he jumped to his feet to point an accusing finger at Naruto. This only caused the blonde to cease his laughter, and grabbed the brunette by the front of his shirt. You tripped over your own dumb feet, you klutz. Don't blame me because you aren't coordinated enough to run straight, shouted the blonde as he raised a fist high into the air, readying himself to pound the smaller 7-year-old upside the head, only to pause as he heard the arrogant voice of Ebisu. You rogue, don't you dare lay a hand on the honorable grandson of the third Hokage, shouted the Jonin from the door. This only caused Konohamaru to smile in victory, and a scowl to cross Naruto's face. So, you think you could be treated special because you're the grandson of the Hokage? Like I care, you brat, bellowed Naruto as he hit Konohamaru upside the head, knocking the boy to the ground, and causing Ebisu to nearly have a heart attack. The Hokage himself could barely contain his amusement with the situation as he watched Naruto storm out of the room, punishment forgotten. Shortly after Naruto left, the Hokage could see Konohamaru regain his senses, and follow after the blonde, causing Ebisu another heart attack. Present. Naruto just continued to smile as the box exploded in plumes of multicolored smoke, and the sound of 3 coughing children could be heard. One voice starts to stand out among the 3, a nasally voice that sounded like the owner suffered from a serious cold. I think we used too much gunpowder again, coughed Konohamaru. Finished the voice and went into a fit of coughing. Gradually the cloud of smoke cleared to reveal what had become the Konohamaru core. In the middle was Konohamaru, wearing his blue scar, gone though was his small little gray helmet that covered his head. Instead he let his hair stand up and flow naturally, only to be held back by a pair of goggles similar to Naruto's own. Next to him stood the brains of the group, and lover of math, Udon. He wore what appeared to be a blue shirt, with a white stripe down the middle where is buttoned up, and blue shorts. He also wore goggles that were set above his large round Coke bottle-style glasses, and under his mushroom-shaped hairdo. The most distinguishing thing about him to Naruto was the ever-present snot hanging from the nose, confirming the boy seemed to suffer from some lifelong cold. Finally there was the female member of the group, and self-proclaimed sexiest kunoichi in preschool Moegi. Her face was normal except for her cheeks, which seemed to always have a rosy hue to them. She too wore goggles atop of her brow, and had her hair in 2 large tufts of pigtails that stood up on the top of her head. With her brown hair, it only helped to imagine it as clumps of hay, or even a broom. Hey boss, we missed you yesterday. We really wanted to congratulate you on graduating and maybe play ninja or something, yelled out Konohamaru, hardly noticing Naruto's new appearance. He was too busy talking about plans and playing ninja to notice anything else out right now. Wow boss, Sniff, you look really cool now, Sniff stated Udon as he noticed Naruto's newest attire. Moegi seconded the opinion as she also cheered for her boss's new look, and claimed that he would make any girl happy. That of course brought a blush to his cheeks, and caused him to look around frantically for any groupies. Konohamaru had finally stopped his talking, and took in Naruto's new look as well, and smiled to his brother. "Wow, Nissan, you look really cool. You even look like a great ninja already now," exclaimed the young Sarutobi. "Yeah, I know, and thanks, that means a lot to me. Sorry I couldn't play with you yesterday, but I had a super top secret mission to do, where I learned a lot of cool things, but I can't show you right now, sorry guys." He smiled as there was a chorus of ahs from his followers. "To make it up to you though, how about we play a special game? One that I can't do without you guys, so how about it?" This had them hooked right away, jumping up and down wondering what their boss could need them for. "Alright, this game, well maybe I should call it a special mission for you guys, what do you say?" "Yeah, we'll help you with any mission, boss," shouted Konohamaru and Moegi, while he got a nod of agreement from Udan. "Okay, the mission is to help me with my laundry," he yelled, causing the 3 followers to face plant onto the ground as Naruto laughed. Dango shop, 9 a.m. Naruto, Shikamaru, and Hinata had each arrived early for the meeting, about 30 minutes early to be exact. While they waited, they talked every now and then about mundane things in the world. Shikamaru spent majority of his time listening though, as well as Hinata, each in their own worlds. Shikamaru was watching the clouds float by, and thinking about the events of the previous day, at diner with Ino's and Choji's family. While nothing major happened, there seemed to be mixed feelings about Shikamaru being on a team with Naruto, as well as Anko. His mother seemed to like the idea, and further added to his troubles when he found out his mother and Anko were old friends. His father, as well as Ino's and Choji's father, seemed to be against the entire idea of Naruto being on his team. Each of them wanted to see their family tradition of the 3 houses being placed on a team continues with the younger generation. While the parents discussed things, they ran Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru out of the house. Shikamaru and company talk about their teams. Despite her earlier regrets of not being on Sasuke's team, Ino seemed to enjoy her current team, even if she had to put up with Kiba's smell. She felt being with Kurenai could benefit her a great deal, which was emphasized by her father, and Kurenai herself. She could live with Shino being on the team, as long as the bugs did nothing to bother her. Choji wasn't as lucky with his group. Upon meeting their sensei, who finally showed up 3 hours after everyone else had left, they learned a little about each other. In that time he learned nothing but his sensei's name, that Sakura was hopelessly in love with Sasuke, which he knew already, and Sasuke wanted to kill some guy, and saw his entire team as useless. He really didn't like his team after the first meeting, and was having doubts about how good it would be. Choji also mentioned how his father was happy in a way that Choji would be learning under the famous Kapinin Kakashi, who seemed to know 1,000 jutsus. This did little to reassure Choji though, and only made him wish he was part of Shikamaru's team more and more. Then there was the survival exam they were going on today, where they had to meet at the memorial stone at 5 a.m. and skip breakfast, which was unheard of for an Akimichi. "I hope you are okay, Choji. I promise I'll hang with you when I get the chance to. Just pass the test your sensei gives you." He was brought out of his thoughts when Naruto mentioned doing laundry, and getting the Konohamaru core to help him. This caused him to smirk, and Hinata to giggle softly behind her hands. "Man, that was wrong, Naruto, tricking little kids into servitude like that," muttered Shikamaru, smiling the entire time. "What can I say? I needed to get laundry done, and shop for groceries. If I did the laundry by myself, I probably wouldn't have had time for grocery shopping, even if it was just picking up a bunch of ramen." The last part was muttered out to where only Hinata, who was sitting next to him, could hear. Her happy demeanor changed into a sadder one at that, and caused her to place an understanding hand on Naruto's own, reassuring that not everyone was against him. Naruto smiled at Hinata, and started to stand as he could hear Anko whistling a tune as she walked up to them. "Great, you are early, I like that in people. Now let's head in and get some breakfast, then we have a few things to do today." They walked to the same table as before, and took the same seats as before, and once again the waitress seemed to already have Anko's order ready, and took the orders of the 3 new genin. While waiting for their meal, Naruto decided to ask a question that was bugging him after their previous meeting. "Hey Anko-sensei, I was wondering, each team of genin have a general purpose, right? Like the combat team from last year, and this year we have a tracking, infiltration, scouting, and spying team, as well as what could be considered an assault team. But I don't know what we are supposed to be." Anko's smile didn't make any of the gathered genin very comfortable as she started to speak. "I'm glad you asked, Naruto, because I really forgot to tell you guys yesterday. In fact, what we do today will be training for that. I am going to train you to be assassination and sabotage experts, which each of you will be very good at." "As sensei, just how are we supposed to be good at that?" asked a very confused Eris. Did you say something, Hinata? I could have sworn that I said yesterday I would never answer anything stuttered out, or whispered. So if you want to be heard, speak properly," stated Anko while pointing at Hinata with a stick of dango. Berating herself mentally, she started again, but paused as it came out in a whisper and stutter, just like before. She was about to give up when she felt Naruto's hand hold her own, reassuring her and giving her confidence. "Sensei, how are we going to be good at that?" spoke the Hyuga with confidence and confusion in her voice. Anko smiled at the girl, this time more of a proud smile at what she had done. Shikamaru himself was more than a little confused. The entire time in the academy, Hinata had never spoken in such a way. She always mumbled out things, or stuttered, but just now she did neither of those things. "The more I am with my team, the more confused I get," mentally mumbled Shikamaru. "Now that you asked, I'll explain. Naruto here is an expert at sabotage, even if he doesn't realize it yet. All of those pranks are perfect examples of what we will be doing, and what you may end up doing in the future." Everyone turned towards Naruto to see a very mischievous smile on his face. "You are perfect for silently killing someone with the Juken and close quarters combat. You have the ability to be an expert assassin like me if you train properly, which I can help with. Now I know you may not like killing, but you have to understand that there are extremely bad people out there. It is our job to take them out, not to mention the Hokage would never accept such a mission without the person having a very good reason for such services." Hinata timidly nodded her head. While she didn't like the idea, she knew how bad some of the people in the world could be, all from first-hand experience. As for Shikamaru, well, he is the brains of the bunch. He can come up with the plans and think out the details for each objective. I don't intend to have him do this by himself, and I will train each of you to be able to perform the task. But Shikamaru will also be able to perform the duties of an assassin with his family techniques. I have no doubt you three can perform these tasks, which is why I'm giving you an unofficial mission today. The interest of all three parties was raised as they heard the news. Even Shikamaru showed signs of being interested in the idea. "What kind of mission, Sensei? Who do you want us to take out?" asked an energetic Naruto, which seemed odd to the other three after his newfound calm. "Well, you are not going to be killing anyone just yet, but this is to test your abilities for the job." "I thought you said we didn't have to take a test?" questioned Shikamaru with a raised eyebrow. "I lied, so sue me," Shikakuin answered Anko with an evil smile on her face. Shikamaru only knew of 2 people who called him that, and his father hardly did it. If there was any question before about his mother knowing her, this answered it for him. "So after breakfast, I'll brief you on the targets, and Naruto-kun should enjoy this," finished Anko as she popped another dumpling into her mouth. The group quickly finished their meal, and left the shop in the direction of the forest training grounds. "Now listen carefully because I'm not going to repeat this, and nor will it be written down anywhere, just like any official assassination mission, understood?" She was greeted with 3 nodding heads and 1 mischievous smile. "Okay, your target will be the Jonin of Team 7, Hatake Kakashi. You are to render him unconscious if able, or trapped and unable to. Also, anyone who gets in your way is subject to the same requirements. Should his team come to his rescue, try to subdue them without damaging them too much, so no exploding clones Naruto, unless they are solely with Kakashi. That's no fun, but fine I guess. I wouldn't want to hurt everyone's Sasuke-kun too much. Not to mention I don't think I could do the same to Choji, he is too nice of a guy. Sakura, well that is another thing altogether, ha Hinata-chan?" Hinata could only giggle, and Shikamaru was slightly shocked to hear him speak that way of his crush, even with the way she had treated him. He had to remind himself though, this was hardly the Naruto from 2 days ago. "Well, just remember, only subdue or restrain them, don't injure them too much. Your primary target is Kakashi, so you can't spend too much time on secondary objectives, understood?" Once again all 3 nodded. Though Shikamaru was slightly afraid of having to hurt his friend, he felt somewhat comforted that the other members of his team would not hurt him too much if possible. Sasuke on the other hand, he was more than willing to break a bone or 2 on. Good, now on to the next part. They will be located at or around the area of the Memorial Stone, Training Ground 7. The area is heavily wooded, and there is also a valuable village monument located there. You are not to damage this monument, doing so brings about the instant failure of the mission. Other than that, you are free to use any and all skills you have. They will be in the area at least until noon, so you have less than 2 hours to plan and deploy. I will not help in any aspect of the mission, except perhaps to answer any questions you may have on your target. The 3 genin instantly gathered together and started to talk. Occasionally they would ask a question about Kakashi and his known skills. Some of these questions were answered with unknown, which they were told would happen on some occasions. They would simply have to try to plan for the unknown events and react to them as they saw fit. One last thing, I can end the exercise at any time by firing a smoke flare into the sky. When I do, the mission is over, and you are to make your way back to the entrance to the training grounds. She was greeted with a nod of affirmation, and some yes-senseis from the more vocal members of the team. After 30 minutes of planning, the 3 set off towards the clearing, with Naruto leading the way. Enko could only smile maliciously as her charges took to the trees, as she was going to enjoy the payback on Kakashi. Oh, how she was going to enjoy telling this story later on tonight at the bar, or the next Jonin meeting. Sorry, Kakashi, but mess with a snake bearing its fangs, and it will bite back. The same goes with a fox, you poor excuse for a man. 50 yards from the clearing, Naruto paused, and started on the first half of their plan. He formed the now familiar, to him, cross-shaped sign, and called forth 12 clones. With another sign, and another cloud of smoke, each one looked like a member of Team 7. 3 each in the form of Sasuke. Naruto gagged at this, Sakura, Choji, and Kakashi. The clones were then sent out into the surrounding woods in hopes of leading the true members of Team 7 away from their sensei, and out of the battle zone. After the clones took their leave, the trio slowly started their way forward, careful to avoid any traps the opposing genin may have set for their Jonin sensei. Hinata would sporadically activate her family's Kekkei Genkai to check for the other team, and found nothing at first. After moving for several minutes, the group came across a crater-filled battlefield, with steam rising from it, and the silver-haired man that was their target. In front of the man, and neck deep in the earth, was none other than Uchiha Sasuke, who did not look pleased with his predicament. You are right, you are not like the others, but then again it's the nail that stands out that gets hammered down the hardest. No, if you will excuse me, I have to find Choji, so don't go anywhere. His visible eye only smiled down as the young Avenger growled at his sensei, and this only caused him to struggle even more to get out of his hole. Team 10 watched as Kakashi left the clearing, and as planned beforehand, Hinata activated her Byakugan to scan for Kakashi, or any other members of Team 7. Seeing the man walk away, they started to follow, but paused hearing the head of Sasuke start speaking. Dang it, how am I supposed to kill that man if I can't even beat Kakashi, and pass this stupid test? I doubt the other two could have gotten a bell from him either, especially that fat-ass Choji, since it's impossible for me to do it by myself. Naruto had to restrain Shikamaru physically when Sasuke said these, and it only added on to his things I hate about Sasuke list. You want to blow our cover? I don't like it any more than you do, but right now we have a task to perform for Enko-sensei, so let it slide for now, and get even with him later, whispered Naruto into Shikamaru's ear. He was greeted with a slow nod of acceptance, and the trio set off once again, with Hinata leading them to their prey. It wasn't long till she could see Kakashi engaged in a battle with Choji, who was currently rolling around in hopes of catching the Jonin. Good, this is what I was hoping for, spoke Shikamaru. He should be too preoccupied to be able to dodge my Kageme no Jutsu, and if we are lucky, Choji will be able to score a direct hit on him, and limit our involvement. If not, you know what to do after I catch him, so get ready. With that said, he started on a sequence of seals, and nodded towards Naruto before he finished. Seeing the nod, Naruto created 5 new shadow clones, and on Shikamaru's final signal, sent them leaping into the air, and out over the clearing, each one casting a shadow onto the forest floor. Once the clones had launched, Shikamaru finished by placing his hands into the rat seal, and with it his shadow started to stretch out from under him, and into the shadows of the clones, and slowly towards Kakashi. Kakashi had felt a small surge of chakra from nearby, but at first he attributed it to his own team. It wasn't until he noticed a figure falling towards him from the sky that he realized how wrong he was. The clones had each managed to launch off the one before it, causing them to stagger the distance, and allow Shikamaru to stretch his shadow further along the ground. The final one had reached the apex of its jump and was now heading down towards its target. It could only smile as the man looked up at it, shock barely concealed behind his mask. Kakashi was about to raise an arm to block the blow from the blonde bomb, and that was when he realized something was very wrong. As he tried to move his arm up, he could faintly hear a voice speaking and stating Kageme no Jutsu, a success, and then panic started to set in. Because coming towards him was a rapidly spinning mass of Akimichi fury. The blonde that was coming towards him was forgotten, though he was surprised when it vanished in a plume of smoke. He would have pondered more on this if it wasn't for Choji bearing down on him. He was about to give off a surge of chakra in hopes of breaking free of the jutsu, but then 4 other blondes clung onto him, and held him tightly, offering him very little freedom of movement. Choji was oblivious to what was going on in the outside world, and he was focused on knocking his sensei down to get a bell. He could sense that the man wasn't moving, and there were several other chakra signatures near him, but he left that out to the side for another time. He neared the mass of bodies, and was just about to hit when Shikamaru let his jutsu go, and allowed Choji to plow into the silver-haired man and the blonde clones, sending the clones up in clouds of smoke. Choji stopped his Nikuden Sasha meat tank, and turned to see if his sensei was still there. To his surprise, and the surprise of the party crashers, only a log was left residing inside of the path of Choji. Seeing this, all parties concerned started to look around in search of their prey. Naruto and group left their hiding place in search of another, with Hinata leading the way, Byakugan flaring. Shikamaru was in the middle of the group, with Naruto bringing up the rear guard. They were nearly to a new location when Naruto grabbed both Shikamaru and Hinata to toss them to the side. Just as they jumped off of the small trail, Kakashi came bursting forth from the earth, Sharingan eye revealed, and spinning with his fury. Hinata could see him quickly withdraw a kunai, and watched as he started to bring it down towards Naruto's exposed chest, and fear started to bubble up inside of her as he remembered the events of 2 nights ago. But just as he did that night, Naruto's arm was covered by light, and was encased in armor. It was just in time as Kakashi's kunai came crashing into it, and was splintered apart like a piece of driftwood. Not taking the chance to be stunned, Kakashi jumped away from his opponent, and started to assess his situation. While he was doing this, Hinata let out a breath she didn't think she was holding, happy that her crush was able to call upon the power of his birth once again. Shikamaru laid there on the ground stunned at what had just happened. Never before had he seen such an event. The ground around him had exploded into fragments of light, then formed on Naruto's arm, and giving him a strange appendage to block that blow with. Could this be what he was working on? If so, then only one word describes it: amazing. Naruto flexed his right arm, and smiled towards Kakashi. Not so useless, is it? It works as a great blocker for pesky kunai, and I can call it forth pretty quickly now that I know how to activate it, again thanks Hataki-san. But now you can see the rest of the power held within this arm, my Kaigara Dangan, shell bullet. Hinata started to smile, as she had seen a sample of its power, but never anything after that first fin. Shikamaru could only wonder what else would change about this former loud mouth. Enko could only smile sadistically at the turn of events. She had never thought she would see anything like this again. She had only seen something like this once before, and that was nearly 14 years ago. Now she was going to see something very similar to that, and couldn't be more pleased with being able to teach the owner. Konami Kao-chan, could this be the son of Yuan Arashi Oto-san? It would have to be. Oto-san had a power very similar, and Naruto-kun looks just like the pictures you used to show me of him. If only I had known sooner, I could have been there for him. Kakashi had that same feeling as he did yesterday. He was starting to sweat down his back, and could hardly figure out why he was afraid of this boy. True, he had the QB sealed within him, but surely that wasn't enough to be worried about, could it? No, it was that arm, the power it seemed to exude. He could feel the power pulsing off of the arm, even if his Sharingan showed now chakra leaking from it. Shikamaru, Hinata-chan, you guys okay? Asked Naruto as he positioned the arm in front of him. Yeah, Naruto, though you have some explaining to do about your Kaigara Dangan, answered Shikamaru. Yes, Naruto-kun, I'm fine. Thank you for pushing us out of the way, answered Hinata. What can I say, Shikamaru, other than it's my family legacy, a new Kekkai Genkai. I wasn't planning on showing it yet, but this jerk made me. Shikamaru only nodded, but still dumbstruck at the turn of events. He was mentally searching the files of his brain for mention of anything similar to this in all of the scrolls he had read and memorized in his life. Sadly, he was coming up empty. Very nice name, but I don't see why you would give it such a name. It hardly suits it after all, replied Kakashi, trying to stall and figure out something to do against this unknown weapon. That's the beauty of it, because after doing my laundry yesterday, this caused Kakashi to develop a large sweat drop on the back of his head, Hinata to stifle her giggling, Shikamaru to face plant, and Enko to laugh merrily in her mind. I read up on my Kekkai Genkai, and found out how to use it. It all stems from the activation, and what triggers to activation. For me to activate mine, I need to be angry, not really, but once the initial activation I can bypass that by thought. But to use the special powers, I still have to focus on one thing, and anger helped to do that for me. Plus, this arm can do a lot of cool things, watch! Shouted Naruto as he started to raise his arm above his head. They all watched as he brought his fist crashing down into the earth, and with that he was propelled up into the air, higher than any of them could see through the canopy of the dense Konoha forest. Hinata activated her clan's legacy and focused up in the air, and started to regret doing so as she saw Naruto start to descend back towards the ground. They continued to watch, and were surprised to hear the voice of the blonde shout out, Shigeki no Fa Pseudo Dangan, shocking first bullet. Everyone could feel the burst of chakra once that was yelled out, only a few could see it. One being Hinata with her Byakugan, and the other was Kakashi with his Sharingan, which he quickly covered to keep from going blind at the chakra released. That was followed quickly by, Hinata-chan, Shikamaru, get out of there fast. And the two genin were more than eager to comply, as Hinata could see him rocketing down towards where Kakashi stood. Not even 10 seconds after fleeing the small trail did Naruto come crashing down into the earth fist first. The resulting shockwave and explosion knocked everyone off their feet. Kakashi had just enough time to leap away from the impact zone thanks to his years of experience in battle. But after seeing such force he knew one thing for sure, and that was to not get hit by one of those attacks. He was quickly leaping away when he noticed one of the original 3 fins was no longer situated on top of Naruto's back, which gave him cause for hope. Sakura had just finished digging Sasuke out of the hole when they felt the explosion and the shockwave from what had to be a mile away from them. Looking at each other, they quickly took to the trees to investigate the source. Choji, who had seen his friend's team fleeing the clearing, could feel the power coming from the direction they went, and could only worry about them. Without a second thought, he took to the trees and started in the same direction. On his way there, he was surprised at something that had stopped him, himself. A Kage Bunshin disguised as Choji came walking up, with a smile on its face. With a quick hand seal, it was obscured by a cloud of smoke that soon revealed an exact copy of Naruto. Hey Choji, I wouldn't go over there right now. My team and my original self are having a party with your sensei. But don't worry, I know you are on some kind of test, and that bells have something to do with it, right? Choji only nodded, as he could hardly believe he was speaking to a clone, a solid one at that. Well, here, we managed to take these when some of us jumped him earlier. I think you might want them, and a word of warning, they are not the true test here. With that, the clone tossed 2 small bells towards Choji, and vanished in a cloud of smoke. Choji just smiled at where the clone once was, and thought that maybe, just maybe, he had another friend to add to his short list. Enko was ecstatic after the debris settled down, not only finding out she had Hikawa-chan's son as a student, but also seeing how much like her Otosan the boy was. This was going to be one hell of a team, was all she was thinking. She quickly shook her head though, she had to end this before it became too serious. Not that a massive crater was anything serious. They were after all a ninja village. She quickly fired off her smoke signal, and made her way to the entrance to the grounds. The entire way there she was giggling like a schoolgirl at the thoughts of what her team was going to be capable of. Kakashi saw the smoke flare, and instantly knew Enko had to have something to do with this little interruption. He saw Team 10 turn to leave, and knew in his mind he was not going to let them go so easily. With that decided, he started to pursue the team of would-be assassins. They were once again in the formation Shikamaru wanted them to follow, Hinata in front, himself in the middle, and Naruto bringing up the rear. They traveled single file through the canopy and were halfway to their target destination when Hinata called out an alarm of them being followed, and an alert that Sasuke and Sakura were 100 yards in front of them, and heading their way. Hinata and I will try to slow down Sakura and Sasuke. Naruto, you try to take care of Kakashi, but don't waste too much time doing it, got it? Yeah, I know, just the thing to change his mind too. You two be careful with Sasuke and Sakura. Choji won't be far behind them, though he doesn't want to fight us, just watch, I think. Nodding, Shikamaru and Hinata took off to confront the opposing genin, while Naruto waited for Kakashi to appear, which did not take too long. Kakashi jumped into the clearing occupied by Naruto, and set an icy glare onto the blonde boy. What's wrong, can't get away, so you decide to face me? I'm not going to take it easy on you like I was earlier. You and your team interrupted a training exercise, so don't think this is another one of your practical jokes. Oh, it isn't. How silly of me to think so. Listen, bastard, I'm only here so my team can handle the other 2 members of your team heading this way. They figured I'd have the best chance of slowing you down, which they seemed to be right. Kakashi had to bite back his growl of frustration with the new would-be assassins. Not to mention that I still have a score to settle with you, son of Konoha no Shiroi Kiba, Konoha's white fang. With that final phrase said, Naruto charged towards Kakashi, armored arm in the lead. Kakashi snapped out of his temporary shock as the boy let loose his war cry, and charged at him. The speed of the boy was nothing like he was expecting, having taken part in several chases before. The look on Naruto's face was also new to Kakashi, as it was one of pure determination, and no longer the idiotic grin he was used to seeing. As